I just made a slip of the tongue for a moment. Why does the princess care so much? Don't you think so? There was no fear in Zhang's eyes. When talking, the bottom of the eyes unconsciously outflow a little scorn. Moreover, I am the housekeeper of the house. Guarding this medicine pavilion is also my duty. Please don't embarrass the slave. What princess, a common woman, dare to put on airs here? Mo Shanghua takes a panoramic view of Zhang Wanmo's face, and Shuemo immediately cools. As a housekeeper, you should know that the princess has the right to manage the affairs of the government. How? Now I even need your approval to enter a medicine pavilion. I'm afraid I don't know that the princess has just entered the palace. The prince has already ordered me to deal with these little things by myself. Now, I haven't received any news from the prince that he will hand over the matter to the princess. The corner of Zhang's mouth turned slightly and drew a low arc. The flower's face suddenly sank, and her eyes seemed to be stained with the strong cold created by thousands of years of snow. I don't know when the housekeeper will be in charge of this huge Yuang mansion, and even the princess can't touch it. It's really impressive. Just a housekeeper. Who gave him the right to be more arrogant than those two concubines? The housekeeper was shocked. He didn't expect that Mo Shanghua would suddenly put on such a big hat. After a while he bit his teeth. It's the medicine pavilion. It's the order of the Lord himself. No one can enter. The princess is to punish the slave. The slave must not give in. Mo Shanghua wanted to retort. She was about to open her mouth. She turned her mind and said, "Don't forget that you are just a dog in this house. The princess is the master. You will do whatever I ask you to do." How now you can't even shake your tail and beg for mercy, so you become the watchdog? What are you talking about? The housekeeper hated being insulted so much that he blushed and his fists creaked. Why, the watchdog is going to bite. The vermilion lips of the flowers on the street were ironically provoked. When the Lord took you, he should have tied the rope. Every word is to trample on his dignity, and then trample on it again and again. He was a man of some blood. He could not stand being insulted like this. What's more, Zhang Wan had a good life in the house of King Yu for so many years, and he had already forgotten his identity. Suddenly I couldn't bear it. I waved my fist towards the flowers on the street. "Little bitch, I'll tear your mouth." In full view of the public, it is not allowed for the slave to try to attack the master. Therefore the flowers on the street do not dodge. Only lightly hook the corner of the lip, strangely and coldly smile to the housekeeper. Sure enough, the next second Qin Lin jumped on him and directly pushed the housekeeper to the ground, letting him struggle and not relax. Mo Shanghua walked to the housekeeper and recovered the color of condensation. The housekeeper's intention is not good for the princess, so he immediately went to the Chaifeng and waited for the release. As soon as the words came to an end, Qin Lin immediately dropped his head and asked for 2 helpers. After a while, he tied up the housekeeper. Just as he was about to take Zhang Wan down, he seemed to suddenly understand and said, "Princess, I know I'm wrong. I'm just confused. I hope you'll forgive me." Until now, he knew the means of Mo Shanghua. He knew that if Mo Shanghua was charged with murdering the princess, he would die. He had no choice but to bow his head. Mo Shanghua just wanted to teach him a lesson. Seeing that he had found his own way, he went down the steps and said, "The death penalty can be avoided, and the life penalty can't be escaped. So let's hit the 50 board again." Zhang Wan's palms were loose, and a chill came to his palms. He was surprised that his palms were already full of sweat. He knelt down and kowtowed, "Princess Xia." But the bottom of his eyes was full of hatred, which made him dare not raise his head. Mo Shanghua glanced at Zhang Wang's head at will. The corners of his lips were silent, and his eyes were dark. The master behind the housekeeper is absolutely not simple. Of course, it's not easy for the master to install a housekeeper level inside the house of King Yu. Zhang Wan was soon dragged down for execution. Mo Shanghua turned around again and walked to the medicine pavilion, but he did not go in. The 2 little fellows in front of the door immediately plop and knelt down. "Princess, the order of the Lord is in advance. The slaves can't let you in. Please forgive me." My eyes narrowed dangerously, and my voice seemed to be a little chilly. "But a medicine pavilion, how can the king see so much? Don't you deliberately deceive me to enter the palace for the first time?" I dare not. The two boys didn't retort either, they just kept their feet down, kneeling at the back of a fold. The boy quietly turned his head and gave a glance to a boy standing nearby. The boy suddenly understood that he was gone. The two boys thought they were hiding, but they didn't know that Mo Shanghua had already put their little actions into their eyes. And their eyes were suddenly sharp. I just ask, are you going to let me or not? There must be some valuable medicinal materials in it. Now time is pressing. She must go in as soon as possible before Xiao Si comes back, otherwise, I'm afraid it won't be possible. The boy was so scared that he turned pale, and his forehead touched the ground deeply. I dare not, princess. Please forgive me. The flower Mao and the Mo once crossed a few minutes impatient. Simply also don't talk nonsense with this small C, directly lift step to want to rush in. The two boys were surprised. They knelt to the door and stopped them. The flower on the street is a headache. A team of bodyguards suddenly rushed from one side. The bodyguard who took the lead rushed directly to the door and knelt down in front of her. Princess, without the order of the Lord, your subordinates really can't let you in. If you really want to go in, your subordinates can only thank you for death. While speaking, the other bodyguards who followed him also repeated it. If these people really commit suicide here, it will be a big deal. Under the consideration of Mo Shanghua, she finally had to step back and said in a light voice, I'm not hard for you. Qinlin, let's go back. She doesn't know how long she will stay here. There is always a chance. On the way back to his residence, he saw Zhang Wan, who had already been punished and was limping back with his buttocks. He saw that he was a stranger. He was busy bowing and saluting. His attitude was respectful and polite. He was no longer arrogant. The flower on the road is just a light glance. With a light hum, it takes back its eyes. Zhang Wan raised his head and looked at the back of the flower on the street. His fist creaked and his face was filled with hatred. A few days went by in a hurry. She spent the past few days getting familiar with the affairs in the mansion. Of course, she had asked Qinlin to go to the pharmacy outside the mansion secretly, but she still couldn't gather the herbs she wanted. Sure enough, I still need to go to the medicine pavilion. However, she hasn't found a chance yet. Today when he was free he sat in the room, reading medical books. The sound insulation of the silk and cotton screen windows was not very good, so that all the words and deeds of the maidservant outside the house came into her ears. Mrs. Nan and the princess went to the palace together. This is a world of difference. Yes, it's not. I stayed up only yesterday, and today I enjoy the Sichuan brocade from Xingong, which is not even available to the princess. Well, if only I could follow Mrs. Nan. The maidservant's voice didn't decrease at all, as if she was in the house without knowing the flowers. The flowers on the street are like ink, and the eyes have crossed the light tide, but the eyes have never moved away from the book in hand. On one side, Qinlin was cold. He came forward and knocked on the window deliberately. The voice outside the window was small. Qinya saw this, and some doubts appeared in her eyes. Then Qinlin explained it in sign language. Qinya's face suddenly showed angry color. Princess, I'm going to drive them away. Say want to lift a step to go out. No need. Mo Shanghua just looked up from the book, with no waves on her face. It's just some means of instigating. I'm not interested in worrying about it yet. Qinlin stopped Qinya as soon as the flower on the street was making a sound. Now the flower on the street says a word, and explains it in sign language. Although Qinya has understood, there are still some flowers in her heart that are not worth it. But princess. Mo Shanghua raised her hand and kneaded her eyebrows. There was a bit of tiredness in her eyes. I'm tired, Qinya. You go down first. It's hard for Qinya to say anything. She retreated with Qinlin. Two people just go out. The face of the flower on the street suddenly a change. Quickly stand up. Shoes and socks are too late to drag. Cross-legged sitting on the bed. The pain in the chest, however, after such a long time's dallying, was aggravated several times instantaneously. Mo Shanghua forcibly suppresses the trembling hand and uses the silver needle to prick the acupoints to suppress the toxicity of the protuberance. In the past, only these acupoints were needed to suppress the toxicity. Today it's like a root. How to do it is still a little painful. The eye color of flowers on the street suddenly sank, and the snow-white lips slightly pursed. It seems that the poison on her can't be delayed. Anyway, she's going to sneak into the pharmacy tonight. At night when Mo Shanghua learned that Yan Beiqing had gone to the place of Yan Hualia Lane, she changed her night clothes and quietly came to Yaoga. Instead of going through the main door, she quietly went through the window and slowed down. She walked in the dark for a period of time. When it was confirmed that there was no one, she took out the fire fold and lit it. The dark room suddenly ushered in some light. This medicine pavilion is the same as the warehouse of the ordinary pharmacy. The room is full of medicine cabinets. The names of all kinds of medicinal materials marked on the cabinets are all precious medicinal materials, with strong fragrance and clear nose. The flowers on the street are shining slightly, and they scan the house one by one. After a while, I didn't feel the breath of a second person, so I relaxed my vigilance and walked quietly in the medicine cabinet, looking for the herbs I needed. There's nothing to see outside the medicine pavilion, but it's huge inside. There are always thousands of kinds of herbs. It's like looking for a needle in a haystack to find some of them. And Mo Shanghua thought about it. When she was about to search for the registration booklet, she suddenly felt a cold wind coming behind her. Subconsciously, she turned around and quickly dodged. Sure enough, she just flashed away. The eye light then glimpsed the place that she just stood. At this time already stood a middle-aged man. His maoguang sharp from the Mo Shanghua body swept. The line of sight finally fell on her face covered with black towel. Who are you? Why are you here? The flower water eyes on the street flitted past a faint dark color, and the vermilion lips under the mask moved. Who are you? The man sneered and put his hands behind him. I'm the pavilion keeper. I advise you to leave no matter what you come here for. Otherwise, I won't be merciful. There is a cabinet keeper here? And this man's breath is steady, the pace is steady. I'm afraid it's a tough one to deal with. But now that it's over, she can't help quitting. Thinking of this, the flower eyes on the street suddenly align, full of sharp color, but also depends on your ability. As she spoke, her feet moved with great speed. But in an instant, he turned around and turned into the medicine cabinet behind him. On the one hand, he walked quickly, and on the other hand, he quietly noticed the name of the medicine on the medicine cabinet. However, she just turned 2 medicine cabinets, and the middle-aged man had already caught up with her. He looked at her with a sneer on his lips and stabbed her with a long sword with a chill. The pupil of the flower on the street suddenly shrank. She wanted to avoid it, but the man was so fast that she couldn't dodge for a moment. In this way, she hardened her head and took out a dagger to block it. Sonorous, a crisp ring, blade collision. Mo Shanghua felt that her hands were shocked by the force, and her body couldn't resist. She immediately stepped back several steps, and then stabilized her body temporarily. On the other hand, the man in black is still standing in place. Mo Shanghua's heart suddenly sank. Even though she knew that she was not an opponent at all, she stepped back a few steps and then quickly left. At this time, she left a heart, deliberately around the medicine cabinet, but did not care to see more. However, no matter how far she runs, the man can easily follow her and can't get rid of her. Not long after that, Mo Shanghua was forced to a more open place by the man in black, and then came directly without Mo Shanghua's reaction. Mo Shanghua holds the dagger tightly in the palm of his hand. When the man in black comes near, he quickly lowers his waist and dodges. When the man saw this, he turned his wrist, and the sword he had stabbed turned into a chop. Without any panic, she simply lay down and quickly rolled on the ground for 2 times. Although she escaped a fatal blow, her left arm was stabbed by a sword, and her clothes and skin were cut. Suddenly, her left arm was dripping with scarlet. She gave a slight hiss in pain and covered her arm. Before she could get up, the man's long sword crossed again. With a sharp blade to kill the idea of fast toward the neck of Missouri Shanghua close, her pupil intense contraction. Before I could escape, suddenly, pa! Slant Larry then suddenly horizontal a long sword. The long sword was more powerful than that in the middle-aged man's hand, and I didn't know how to do it. With one effort, I picked up the long sword in the middle-aged man's hand. Mo Shanghua stood up with her bloody arm and looked at the cloak man who came out of nowhere, biting the pale lip. The cloaked man's martial arts is obviously not weaker than that of the man. After a while, he temporarily blocks the man away, and then returns to the side of the flower on the street. His long arms firmly hold her slender waist, and her toes are lighter. The next moment, he took her out of the window of the medicine pavilion and flew away. Mo Shanghua leaned against the cloaked man's arms, but she felt a sense of security in her heart, which surprised her. She dropped her eyes and didn't think about him. Yan Beiqing, the cloaker, went to the outside of the city with Mo Shanghua. He specially found a clean house. Then he put her carefully on the bed, and subconsciously pulled the quilt to cover her. At that time, the wound between her arms was too deep, the scarlet blood was still flowing slowly, and the blood color on her face faded to paper white because of excessive blood loss. Yan Beiqing looked down at her pale face, deep as the eyes at the bottom of the spring. After a few seconds of silence, he said, "I'll help you deal with the wound." Mo Shanghua's consciousness was a little dim at this time. When he heard Yan Beiqing say so, he nodded casually, and then half-closed his eyes, with a look of Ren Jun's disposal. Seeing this, Yan Beiqing leaned over and sat down, took out the dagger from Mo Shanghua's waist, and carefully rode down the clothes between her left arm from her shoulder. It's more terrifying than you think. Between her slender and white lotus arms, a ferocious wound about half an arm long was across her elbow. The skin of the wound turned white, and the bright red blood was flowing out from the ferocious wound little by little. Just looking at it makes people feel numb. Yen North City Mao color suddenly a deep, hold the hand of green jade small bottle tight. For a long time, just open small bottle, among them of gold sore medicine all poured up. Powder scattered in the flesh, suddenly in exchange for a burst of pain. Will spend on the road a bit confused mind again. She opened her eyes and glanced at her own wound. Yan Beiqing, who was covered with a cloak, was clumsily dealing with her wound. Her eyebrows suddenly frowned tightly. In this way, although the blood is stopped, how can such a big wound be done without suturing? I'll do it myself. Help me find some spirits. Mo Shanghua raised his right hand, pressed Yan Beiqing's hand, and opened his mouth low. Yen North City enters sideburns. Sword eyebrow immediately tightly a see you. You a hand, how can do? Mo Shanghua sat up with her bed and shook her head gently. I'm okay. Yan Beiqing looked down at the eyes of Mo Shanghua, and told her that the bottom of her eyes was clear. Then she agreed and came back with a pot of wine. Mo Shanghua does not hesitate to open the wine bottle, and pour the wine directly towards the wound, spilling the wound wantonly. Compared with the medicine powder, she felt several times more pain. The white lip petal of Mo Shanghua was bitten by her, which made her lips and teeth smelly and sweet. The hand holding the wine pot trembled, but for a moment, she held on tightly. How could she be so cruel to herself? Yan Beiqing heart drama shock. Ink pupil in the open a touch of inexplicable dark light. Raised his hand to the lips of flowers on the street. Mo Shanghua turns her eyes hard and sweeps one eye. But she is still biting her lower lip, never loosening a bit. The wine in the pot was quickly poured out, and the flower's hand trembled slightly. The wine pot immediately fell to the ground and smashed. Can it go on? Yan Beiqing couldn't help but open his mouth. The ink pupil under the cover of his broad cloak crossed the color of worry that he had never noticed. Mo Shanghua shakes her head, takes out the acupuncture bag from the sleeve bag, takes out a needle that has already been put on the catgut, takes a deep breath, stabs the tip of the needle through the skin, and stitches it slowly. The newly relaxed labial flap was clenched tightly again, and the hand holding the needle end was trembling all the time. The pain became more and more severe. A thin sweat suddenly appeared on her white and full forehead and slowly fell down her nose. Yen North City in the heart don't know why is also a choke. Slender 10 fingers slowly tighten. Mao Guang tightly lock on the wound that she sews. Usually half an hour to complete the things. Mo Shanghua this time used an hour and a half. After stitching, her whole body was soaked with sweat, and she was weak. So she forced herself to take medicine, bandaged herself, and then leaned on the bed. Yan Beiqing sat beside his bed, deep and mysterious in the dark pupil, unable to see what emotion it was. There was silence in the room. For a long time, the flower on the street just pulled the dried lip, and said in a low voice, "You followed me all the way to Yuzhou. What do you want to do?" The idea that Yan Beiqing was the cloaker in front of him wavered in his heart. Yan Beiqing's eyes were slightly deep, and he didn't answer her question. He turned his head and said in a light voice, "The house of King Yu is not as simple as you think. Without any support, don't be too powerful." A word instantly let Mo Shanghua silence down. The brain can't help but think of the expert within the medicine pavilion. Any person in the medicine pavilion can kill her. It can be seen that what this person said is true. It's just how can he know so much? Just want to ask more. Yan Beiqing is suddenly handed over a small bottle of jade. "This bottle is the best acne medicine, you take it." Mo Shanghua is about to refuse subconsciously, but when it comes to her mouth, she swallows it, and her delicate jaw nods gently. "Go to sleep. I'll take you back tomorrow morning." Yan Beiqing stood up, whispered and walked away. The flower on the street is tired, so it doesn't refuse, so it lies down again and closes its eyes. When Mo Shanghua was asleep, Yan Beiqing quietly walked into the house again. He looked at the flowers lying quietly on the bed, moved in his heart, raised his hand to gently wipe her forehead, nose sweat, eyes with a bit of complexity, a bit of appreciation. From the moment of wound treatment, there was no cry of pain. If you were someone else, you would have passed out several times without knowing the pain. This woman is really terrible. At the moment, a small piece of the wall in his heart quietly collapsed, but he didn't feel it at all. The next day, before dawn, Yan Beiqing sent the flowers back quietly. Mo Shanghua sits on the pear-wood carved soft couch in his bedroom, with a lax look in his eyes. In what the cloaker said to her, she could hear that he seemed to know her identity and what happened around her very well. So what is the identity of this person? If you can monitor her whereabouts so clearly, you must have certain rights here, and his figure is very similar to that of King Yu. Can it really be the King Yu? She remembers that when the cloaker was fighting with the medicine expert, he seemed to show a scar on his arm. It was just in the process of thinking that there were 2 knocks on the door, and then there was Qinya's voice, "Princess Insure." The voice falls, the person has already walked in, small step around to the bedside, lifted soft luo gauze bed curtain, softly repeated again. Mo Shanghua nodded, doing sign language and explaining in a low voice, "Go and prepare some hot water. I'll take a bath and you'll wait by." She sweated a lot last night, and was sticky all over. Now she is hurt again. It's really inconvenient, so she can only ask Qinya to serve her. Because of the wound on her left arm, her movements were slowed down a lot. Fortunately, Qinya was clever and quickly understood what she meant. She was busy and ready to go down. Qinya's hands and feet are very sharp. After a while, she gets the hot water ready and takes off her clothes when she comes to serve Mo Hua. As soon as the clothes were half faded, the gauze layer upon layer wrapped between the flower's left arm surprised Qinya. "Princess, what's the matter? When is it available?" The willow eyebrows of the flowers on the street frown slightly and shake their heads to Qinya. They are still doing sign language and explaining. "It's just a small injury. You'll be more careful later. Don't touch the water, and don't make any noise about it." But the gauze is bleeding." "Oh no, I went to ask the doctor to come here?" Qinya stares at the gauze with blood stains, and her eyes are full of worries. "You can't ask for a doctor. If you let it out, you won't know." Mo Shanghua quickly raises her hand to hold Qinya's, and then she is afraid that she can't understand the lip language, so she makes another sign language. Yes. Although Qinya was worried, she accepted it, and her fingertips became cautious. Until the flowers on the street entered the water, she could not help muttering in a low voice, "Princess, does it hurt? Do you want me to find a way to get some oral medicine so that you can recover faster?" "No need." Mo Shanghua shakes her head and is afraid that Qinya can't understand it. She says in sign language, "I know how to deal with it. I have a number in my heart. You don't have to worry. You just need to serve me well." Qinya bit her lip lightly. She was worried in her eyes, but she didn't say any more. She moved carefully around the wound and helped her wipe her body gently and carefully. Mo Shanghua collects Qinya's performance into the bottom of her eyes. She nods in her heart, but her face is still indifferent and silent. Mo Shanghua has just finished bathing here. Before he can change his clothes, The door is suddenly pushed open and Yan Beiqing stumbles in. Mo Xianghua just put on her thin Chinese dress at this time, but she didn't hurry. She waved to Qinya calmly and motioned her to go down. Qinya doesn't do it, he thinks. He goes down obediently. Before going out, he doesn't forget to close the door. Yan Beiqing didn't even look at Qinya. He turned around like looking for treasure in the house, and finally settled on the face of flowers on the street. Beauty, you are here. Among the blurred eyes, there is a spring color, pulling the collar and walking towards the flowers on the street. Mo Xianghua saw that his face was flushed and his eyes were blurred. When he got close to him, he smelled of wine. Her willow eyebrows suddenly slightly frowned, and she stepped back half a step. If the Lord drinks too much wine, he can go to other places to wake up, or don't come to me to give you a hard time. Yan Beiqing, as if unheard of, raised her hand and gently tugged at her delicate white hands. She said with a smile, "What's painful and unpleasant? Now I just think of you," said he busily lowered his head to his waist belt. "I'm so sleepy, let's have a rest together." After a while he took off his coat, but he didn't plan to stop. Instead he continued to take off his coat. The flowers on the street and the water in his eyes flashed for a moment, and he looked away. "The Lord is drunk, so I'll let someone help you back." When he spoke, he had to walk out. At this time, Yanbei City had already taken off himself. CMO Xianghua want to go. Unexpectedly is a direct drag her to his arms, low smile way. "Where do you want to go, eh?" Because the force is too big, the whole person of Mo Xianghua bumps into his arms, and the warm breath sprays all over her ears, bringing a burst of crispy itching. The flower on the street is slightly stunned. It takes a long time for her to react. She climbs onto an unnatural infant and pushes her arm to get free. But at this time Yanbei City, strength is unexpectedly big, so that spin struggling for a long time also did not have the slightest effect. On the contrary, they were forced by Yan Beiqing and fell on the bed together. Yan Beiqing seems to knock to where, one hand covering his head, one hand is still tightly ring in the waist of the flowers on the road. "You are hitting me, and see how I will deal with you." He curled his mouth like a child, and then the whole person directly turned over and pressed on the stranger. The flower on the street only feels heavy on her body. The wound between her left arm is affected. She breathes in pain. But at this time, when she regained her mind, a magnified face came towards her. Her pupils contracted and she pressed her uninjured right hand against his jaw. Yan Beiqing's face was filled with dissatisfaction. He looked up and said, "You little goblin, what are you doing so slowly?" After a pause, his eyes glanced at my flower-neat clothes, and his voice turned. "This room is so hot. How can you still wear your clothes? Come on, I'll take them off for you," said, then a hand to support in the ear of the flower, a hand down. "Want to go to untie her waist tie?" Mo Shanghua's face turned red. He quickly raised his hand to grasp Yan Beiqing's hand, and then pushed him away, almost gnashing his teeth. "Yan Beiqing, what do you want to do?" Yan Beiqing just lay on the bed for a while, then he took the slender waist of Mo Shanghua and pulled her over. He pressed her tightly in his arms and laughed. "What do I want to do, don't you know?" Mo Shanghua looks up at Yan Beiqing's confused eyes. "I don't know why in my heart, but suddenly, I don't know why. I forget to struggle." She this lung, a Yin North City then of the inch advance of will her waist tie suddenly untie, will she again toward own bosom pull, until they felt that there was no distance between them. They dropped their heads again, and went down towards her lips. As soon as the palm of Mo Shanghua's hand was tight, he subconsciously raised his hand and turned it into a knife. With one hand, he fell into a faint. Mo Shanghua felt relieved and pushed Yan Beiqing away. He turned over and sat up. She wanted to ask people to take Yan Beiqing away, but after careful consideration, she suddenly lowered her head and looked sideways, and her eyes swept around his naked upper body. Although King Yu is not in favor, he is still a prince. He has always been a respectable man since childhood, but there is no scar on his body. This is different from the cloak man. Then he is probably just King Yu, and has nothing to do with the cloak man. Mo Shanghua's doubts are dispelled. When he looks at Yan Beiqing's naked upper body, his eyes become unnatural for no reason, and his white cheeks are flushed. She hurriedly pulled aside the quilt and covered Yen Beiqing's upper body tightly, which was a little settled in her heart. However, her eyes fell on Yen Beiqing's cheek again, and the words of the cloaker slowly floated out of her mind. Although Yuzhou is located in a remote area, Yen Beiqing's identity here is doomed that Yuzhou will not be a peaceful and simple place. She thought it was too simple before. What's more, she just came to Yuzhou and has no foundation at all. If she wants to have a foothold, maybe as the cloak people said, she should continue to narrow her edge, quietly add her own wings and find a backing. As for this backer, the person in front of us is the best choice. Yen Beiqing sleeps for an hour and wakes up early. He stood up with his bed and saw that he was naked, and that he was sitting alone in front of the mirror combing his hair. But after this suddenly, there is only a look of disgust. He put on his clothes and covered his back neck, which was slightly painful for some reason. He muttered in disgust, "Did I drink so much yesterday that I ran away from Qinghuan Pavilion to have a rest here?" Mo Shanghua puts the gods of Yen Beiqing into her eyes one by one through the faint Huangluan mirror, but she is not angry. Instead, she puts down her rhinoceros horn comb and walks over with a smile. "Lord, I'll wait for you to change." While speaking, he had already picked up Yen Beiqing's coat, leveled it in his hand and motioned him to come. A little surprise flashed across Yen Beiqing's face. He turned suspiciously and smoothed his hand. "What medicine did you take today?" Mo Shanghua doesn't answer, but moves gently and puts his clothes on Yen Beiqing. The wound on the body can't be found by others. As usual, she gently pulled a pair of hands, which inevitably involved the wound between her arms. Suddenly, she frowned, and her movements in her hands were also stagnant. "Why?" Yen Beiqing looked at the flowers on the street behind him, and his sword eyebrows frowned, as if dissatisfied. "Nothing." The frown of the flower on the street was immediately smoothed. The slight white lip gently lifted a smile, and the action in his hand was restored, and he continued to put on his clothes. However, the wound between her left arm, when she raised her hand, would be involved from time to time, so that the movement in her hand would be slow and stagnant from time to time. Yen Beiqing turned around and looked at the flower on the street who hung his head and tied his belt. He couldn't help but say, "It's not good to do such a thing. It's clumsy." Having said that, he is very useful. Let the stranger play with and serve, without the slightest intention to let her stop. Mo Shanghua looks up at Yen Beiqing, but he doesn't speak. He suddenly leans down and gets close to him. His arms pass through his thin waist, and he wants to wrap his belt around him. Just stretching like this, the wound between her left arm was torn badly. She breathed in pain and moved in her hand. Then she leaned against Yen Beiqing. When Xiang nephrite into his arms, Yenbei City cannot afford half of the waves in the heart, suddenly move, cannot help but laugh. "You this woman, this time do not forget to take advantage of the king." Just that paint black eyes bottom, but clearly across a light color of worry. Even he himself did not notice. Mo Shanghua gritted her teeth and endured the pain between her arms. She slowly moved her belt around Yen Beiqing's waist. Before the tie, her fingertips had another meal. After a while, she continued to pull the knot. Yen Beiqing always murmured that she was clumsy. From the beginning to the end, she didn't complain. She even came back with a smile. When everything was ready, she personally served him to wash. Then she slowed down her voice and said in a soft voice, "Lord, breakfast will be okay for a while, but do you want to stay?" Yen Beiqing was very satisfied with Mo Shanghua's kindness this morning, so he nodded and agreed to stay. Mo Shanghua just ordered her to go down. In a short time, Qinya took a group of servant girls and presented the breakfast one by one. Yen Beiqing was about to move his chopsticks, but he suddenly remembered something in his mind. He picked up the chopsticks and put them down again. "Did you go to the medicine pavilion a few days ago?" How could he know so quickly? Did he send someone to watch her? The flower water eyes on the street dye a touch of dark color, and the heart suddenly gave birth to several possibilities. Before she had time to think about it, Yen Beiqing seemed to see what she was thinking and said in a low voice, "Don't think that I sent someone to watch you. You made a lot of noise that day. The housekeeper and the chief bodyguard came to me to report it." Emo Shanghua's doubts were relieved. He thought about it a little, and then said, "That day, my maid was in an emergency, so I didn't have time to go out to prepare medicine. I heard that there was a medicine pavilion in this house, so I went there rashly. Unexpectedly, the housekeeper of the pavilion was disrespectful to me, so I punished her a little. Later, the chief bodyguard stopped me, and I didn't go in." Yan Beiqing is used to willful and reckless behavior. If she doesn't explain it well, she can't figure out what he has to say. Unexpectedly, Yan Beiqing just slightly lowered his jaw, picked up the chopsticks again and told him, "You are the princess. Since the housekeeper is disrespectful to you, the punishment should be taken. It's just the medicine pavilion. If it's okay, you should never go again." "Yes." The flower on the street whispered and thought about it in her heart. She said casually, "I heard that there seems to be an expert in the medicine pavilion who has been stationed all the time. Even if people outside let go, he won't let people in. The servant girl in the house is very evil. I don't believe it." Yan Beiqing raised his eyes, glanced at the flowers on the street, swallowed what he had in his mouth, and then said, "Don't believe it. All those maids are broken-mouthed. They like to pass on mistakes with mistakes. You are a princess. If you join them, you will lose your face." Emo Shanghua nodded, and then he continued to eat with his head down. There was another silence in the air. There was no other sound except the sound of the collision between the bowls and chopsticks. Rice used half of the time. Emo Shanghua is suddenly put down the bowl chopsticks, originally in the soft light of the beautiful eyes, undisguised across a few distinct dim color. A pair of words and stop appearance. Yin North City stares at her face to see that for a while. The sword eyebrow not only slightly stirs up. "You this have a mind? Is there anything I dare not say?" In fact, the scar on my face has always been my heart disease. I heard that there are many treasures in the medicine pavilion. I want to make some medicine to treat the injury on my face. The eye wave flows. That dim eye bottom is actually a piece of indifference. Yan Beiqing held the chopsticks that had been raised, and immediately stopped in the air. After a long time, he took them back and kept silent. Yen North City does not speak. Emo Shanghua wants to make virtuous appearance, since also can't open mouth, so big house suddenly static drop needle can smell. After a long time, Yan Beiqing raised his drooping eyes, looked at the flowers on the street, gathered the old dandy and said in a low voice, "The medicine pavilion was set up by the emperor's orders, and the guards were specially sent by the emperor. The access control was always so strict. I didn't go to the medicine pavilion when I needed urgent medicine." After a pause, he gathered his eyes to cover his eyes, pretended to be relaxed and said, "If you want to dispense medicine, go to find the Dr. Lu Zhenglu in the mansion, go to him to get a prescription, and let the housekeeper dispense it." The implication is that this medicine pavilion can't go anyway. The housekeeper kept asking for King Yu's orders, but if he really said that the nominal King Yu had no real power at all, he would have given orders, and the housekeeper would not obediently obey and put him into the medicine pavilion. And this should be proved even more. Zhang Wan, the housekeeper, was really from the other side of the imperial capital. Yinbei City has already said so. It's hard to say anything about the flowers on the street, so he has to tap his chin. "Yes, thank you, Lord." Yan Beiqing then nodded slightly. In his clear eyes, the deep color flashed away. Then he said with a smile, "This meal is almost cold. Eat it quickly. If it's spread out, others think that the king deliberately treats his princess harshly and gives her some cold food." Emo Shanghua didn't miss the deep flash of Yan Beiqing's eyes. She felt a slight shock in her heart and hung down her head to grab the food in the bowl. King Yu, I'm afraid, is not as simple as what he showed. He seems to be pretending something. Just about to continue to take the chopsticks to eat, a little servant girl suddenly ran in and saluted them. "See ye princess Wan Fu." "No gift." Yan Beiqing lifted his eyes from his job and waved at will. The servant girl stood up and looked at the flower in the street quietly. After hesitating for a while, she said, "I'm going to ask for a meeting with the princess." "Mrs. Nan." The flower eyebrow light frown on the road, in the eye die a few scent doubt. Chinya's simple lip language can still be understood. She hurriedly comes over and whispers a reminder. It's the Nanhenan lady who entered the mansion with you yesterday and has been very popular these days. Mo Shanghua has an impression, but it's just an impression. It's just something I've heard and never seen. Originally, she didn't care much about this person. At this time, Yan Beiqing was here, and she was a little curious. Mo Shanghua turns her eyes to see Yan Beiqing. If it is true, when he hears that it is the South Crane, he puts down his chopsticks and gently raises his lips. Please come in. Yes. The servant girl answered the voice and went away. Soon after, she was lifted up by a servant girl and a woman came in. A woman is very gentle and graceful. She can really bear the burden. Her skin is like cream and her lips are like red and vermilion. Her smile and twinkle show a certain degree of gentleness and elegance. Her temperament is incomparable with others. She walked with elegant steps. Low-browed came in, respectfully in accordance with the etiquette, salute one by one. My maid and concubine, please send greetings to the king, and the king is blessed. Hello to the princess. She slightly side body, turned to Mo Shanghua, some sorry mouth. Say originally is also maidservant concubine lost ceremony, come to the mansion so many days, also didn't come to give the princess please, hope the princess forgive is. In every word and deed, they are polite and respectful. They don't look frivolous and arrogant. He's really a wonderful person. He's very clever. Mo Shanghua quietly looked at the South Crane. Eyes slightly deep a few seconds, just laughed. Nanji is serious. You've just been in the mansion for a few days. It's not too late to see you now. Get up quickly. If not, the Lord will be distressed. Words, with the princess should be dignified and elegant. But she didn't know that the expression on his face was unknowingly absorbed by Yan Beiqing, but he didn't show it at all, and his eyes fell on Nanhe again. Come here to sit. Come here to add a pair of chopsticks. Thank you, Lord. The South Crane's soft voice blessing body immediately came over gracefully, sat down in the Yen North City body side. This just way. I come in such a hurry can disturb the king? No way. Yan Beiqing's attitude towards Nanhe was as if he had changed his personality. He was only spoiled. It's you. Your hands are so cold. But you get cold on the road? While speaking, he has already grasped the soft and delicate hand of Nanhe in the palm of his hand. With his warm big palm, he warms the cool hand of Nanhe. Nanha didn't struggle. Instead, he gave the other hand to him with a soft smile. But he said that he was right and wrong. Can't you have dinner like this, then eat first? Yan Beiqing followed her words, released his hand, turned to clip a crystal bag, and gently put it into the bowl of Nanha. South Crane light lift jaw, such as petals light vermilion petals, evoke a soft smile. Thank you. Mo Shanghua looked at the two people like no one else's show of love. But her eyes fell on Nanhe from time to time, quietly observing, and sighing in her heart. It seems that those rumors are true. Yan Beiqing really dotes on the South Crane. Looking at this South Crane, she looks so soft and weak, and looks so beautiful. It's not a man. Even she feels pity when she sees it. No wonder people like Yan Beiqing are used to it. Yanbei City Nanha two people flirt with each other, spend on the side, try to reduce their sense of existence. The atmosphere is harmonious for a while, but some people like to destroy this kind of harmony. Yunji and Pingji, after the maid reported, were also impolitely sitting at the table. Although the stranger didn't like them, she still kept the dignity of the princess, and ordered people to add 2 sets of chopsticks. Yunji stealthily glances at Yan Beiqing, who turns a blind eye and brings food to the South Crane, and then looks at Mo Shanghua with indifferent eyes. Her mind turns around, but she hesitates and doesn't speak. After the last event, she was already subconsciously afraid of the flowers on the street. But she thought that the situation is different now. The Lord is here to see how she dares to be presumptuous. Thinking of this, her face was also tinged with a bit of choo-choo color. Learning from the South Crane's appearance, she said in a soft voice. The royal concubine's admonition on that day. I went back to think for a long time, and now I've figured it out. What happened on that day was that my words and deeds were wrong, and I bumped into the royal concubine. I hope the royal concubine will not be annoyed by this. After a pause, she glanced at Pingji. When Pingjitan understood it, he said, "If the princess really can't calm down, I'm willing to copy the rules of the palace 100 times, so that the princess can calm down." Mo Shanghua raised his eyes to see two people, indifferent to the bottom of Qingrui's eyes, crossed a little sneer, did not say a word, just staring at two people. Yanji was staring at by the eyes of the stranger. She was scared. She quickly lowered her head and wiped the corners of her eyes with a soft gauze handkerchief soaked in ginger juice. Her eyes suddenly turned red. "I've always been straightforward. If the princess is really dissatisfied, I'd like to get the punishment together with Pingji's younger sister." On the other side of the street, the flower's eyes were even more ironic, but his face was still as indifferent as before. He was about to speak to the two people, but Nanhe suddenly raised his head and looked curious. "I was stupid, but I didn't understand after listening for a long time. What's the matter with the two sisters? What's the matter with the princess and you?" South Crane's voice, "Let two people accident at the same time. In the heart is a joy. Only think South Crane and they stand in a line." Pingji couldn't bear it. She took over the conversation, pretending to be aggrieved and said, "It's nothing. It's just that we have broken our mouths. We have lost our words and collided with the princess. In a word, it turns the big thing into a small one. By the way, it secretly points out that the stranger is narrow-minded, jealous and abusive of the princess's power. Cloud Ji is not willing to lag behind. Seize the opportunity to Mo Shanghua infinite smear. South sister, this matter has nothing to do with you. You don't want to be involved." But the expression on the face, there is a kind of if you open mouth, you will also be angry, as if Mo Shanghua is really a jealous person. Mo Shanghua has a clear idea of Yinji and Pingji. She can guess what they are going to say, but she doesn't pay attention. Instead, she turns her eyes and falls on Nanhe. Shui Mao stares at Nanhe's beautiful face for a while, and her eyes gradually show some deep color. However, a few people did not expect that the South Crane was really like what Yanji said. He answered and ignored it. Yan Beicheng, from the beginning to the end, seemed to have never heard of him. He either ate by himself or flirted with Nanha as if no one else. Mo Shanghua also despises their means. Seeing that Yan Beicheng doesn't pay attention to them, I suddenly think of what he just said before. She is the princess of the mansion. If you have something to do, just ask the housekeeper to order her. Therefore, things at this time should be the same. I really didn't want to deal with these two people, so I put down my chopsticks. So I said, "Since you two insist on this, it's not easy for me to refute your wishes. In this way, you can copy the government regulations 200 times." Two people never thought. Mo Shanghua in front of Yan Beicheng did not avoid at all, then Lung. As soon as Pingji's face changed, she blurted out without thinking, Princess, she." Before she had finished her sentence, she was quickly pulled by Yanji, who was beside her. She realized what she was saying. Her face turned white, and she knelt down to Yan Beicheng. "I'm sorry. I beg you to forgive me." Yan Beicheng's sword eyebrow frowned a little, and was immediately covered by some dissatisfaction. "It's a lot of things. In that case, I'll punish you to copy it 200 times and send it to the princess the next day." Such frankness and recklessness are in line with Yan Beicheng's camouflage outside. It's no surprise that he's already used to it. At the same time, Pingji felt a deep jealousy at the bottom of her eyes. She held her slender fingers tightly, and her sharp nails almost pierced her palm. For a long time she was unwilling to bow her head. "Yes." Yan Beicheng nodded casually, then stood up, slowed down his voice and asked the Nanha beside him, "Have you eaten? It's a fine day today. If we eat well, let's go to the lake together." So favor South Crane nature won't refuse. Soft smile up. Good. Two people finished saying, toward Mo Shanghua said for a while, "Portable hand but go," the remaining three of them. It was not until Yinbei City was far away that Pingji got up again. Looking at the direction of the two peoples going far away, she felt sour and jealous again. Yanji's heart is the same, but when she turns her eyes, she sees that the flower on the street is still indifferent and indifferent. She moves in her heart and says, "Nanji's sister is really lucky to be so loved by the king." As he spoke, his eyes glanced at Pingji's face, and they exchanged eyes instantly. Pingji's eyes quickly passed a bit of jealousy, and she could not help but said, "No, you can see the embroidery of her clothes. I'm afraid no one's clothes will catch up with her. Don't talk about you and me. I'm afraid the princess will also." These two people really don't worry about it, and they want to instigate it. I'm afraid it's the maidservant who whispered outside the window that they did. The flower eyes on the street were slightly heavy. She put down her chopsticks, straightened her face and looked at them. As a concubine of the king, don't you know that you can't say what you shouldn't say? Or are you too few according to the 100 times government regulations? Their faces were green, especially Pingji, who had more than 200 times than Yenji. Her face was blue and white, and her slender fingers were deep into her palm. Bitch. Yenji took a deep breath and pressed down her heart. Princess, I don't mean that. However, since ancient times, the rain and dew should be evenly distributed in the deep palace. Now the Lord only dotes on her. Even you, the imperial concubine, are ignored. I'm not worth it for you. But after all, the princess is the imperial concubine who was personally married. The implication is that Nanha is only a concubine who can't threaten his status. Only these concubines will be threatened. Huashui's eyes lingered on the two of them, showing the princess's dignified magnanimity and solemnly admonished, "We should be magnanimous whenever we are wives and concubines. It's absolutely impossible to be jealous. Otherwise, it will only cause the Lord's disgust. No matter what you think carefully, you'd better put it away." The servant girls in the house are fashionable. They are admonished in front of so many people. They can't hang up now. Their faces are more brilliant than their previous blue and white, just like a palette. Bitch, sooner or later she'll tear her face. Cloud G Dark Hative glanced at Mo Shang to spend one eye, clenched teeth to endure to come down. What the princess admonishes is. Mo Shanghua gently nods her chin, turns her eyes to look at her side and lowers her head. Pingji, who is secretly hated in her heart, deliberately asks her, "Pingji, do you understand?" Pingji face suddenly more ugly. Face resentment have no time to cover up, busy head buried low, yes. After a pause she stood up and said, "Well, thank you for your hospitality. So I won't give it away. The flower on the road should be a." The line of sight sweeps on the Cloud G body of one side. The Cloud G complexion is stiff. The busy discerning interest rises to leave. Before they left, they did not forget to remind the bad heart of copying family rules. After appreciating their green and white faces again, they let them go. When the two left, the flower on the street relaxed, and the back of the chair behind him leaned back, and the bottom of his eyes pulled out a bit of light tide. The means of these women are really boring. They only use their mouths. They don't have the slightest challenge. Yan Beiqing stood by the lake with his hands down. His eyes were not as clear as before. They were covered with an unpredictable deep color, like a deep spring, which made people unable to see the end at a glance and understand the look in his eyes. Nanha, who was supposed to nestle in his arms just as he had just done, was standing a few steps behind him with a clear sense of superiority and inferiority. His gentle and pure temperament was gone, but he was a little cold and arrogant. But the light of the proud eyes was looking at him, and there were several different expressions in the eyes. Yan Beiqing's eyes reflected the waves of the lake, but his heart was calm. He said in a light voice, "Why did you enter the mansion ahead of time?" In the original plan, she was supposed to enter the government next month, but now she's ahead of time. She's acting first and then playing. It's better to be normal. Now the South Crane Mal light Tiny Shan once, but instantaneous, then was pressed down by her. This is all if Mr. Yu arranges, subordinate just obeys orders to act. If you are stupid, Yan Beiqing's sword eyebrows frowned slightly. Although there were some words in his heart, he didn't say anything after all. All around he fell into silence again. This was always the case when Yenbei City faced Nanha. South Crane has long been used to, then spontaneously pulled the topic. If Mr. Yu, there came the news, Western Frontier General Wang Wuqing has been subdued. Please show me. Yan Beiqing was not surprised at all. He gently nodded his beautiful chin, and his voice was low and calm. Just pass on the news quickly, and let Wang Wuqing maintain his original state recently. Don't act rashly and show his horse's feet. Leave the rest to Mr. Ruoyu. Yes. South Crane low eyes should be eyes in circulation and a bit worried color. Lord, these days too hard. Yesterday came back so late, recently can have a good rest. Don't hurt yourself. After a pause, she took out a medicine bag from her sleeve and handed it to him. This medicine bag is specially made by me. It has the function of calming the nerves. Please accept it. Yan Beiqing glanced back at the medicine bag and saw that the embroidery work was exquisite and delicate. He stared at her with burning eyes. His sword eyebrows frowned slightly, and he took back his eyes again. I can't use it for the moment. You should keep it for yourself. After that, without waiting for Nanhe to respond, he turned around, regained his dandy look, and strode away. It's really heartless. The South Crane gently rubs the medicine bag in his hand and whispers in a low voice. In his proud eyes, there is a faint color. Mo Shanghua leaned lazily on the soft couch, raised her hand and rubbed her forehead, which was not painful, and said, I feel a little uncomfortable. Qinlin, please go and ask the Imperial Dr. Lu to come. Qinlin couldn't speak, so he nodded his head like a pound of garlic and retreated. In the past month, Qinya has been able to understand a lot of words through the special lip language training of Mo Shanghua. Seeing this, she can't help but worry. Princess, but what's wrong with the wound? The wound has healed very well now. It's no big problem. I'll ask Dr. Lu to come. There's something else. You don't have to worry. Go and prepare tea. Mo Shanghua is still playing sign language, while deliberately slowing down the speed of speech, so that Qinya can see her mouth. Qinya just let go of her mind and she was busy. But after a cup of tea, Qinlin came back, followed by Lu Zhenglu. Mo Shanghua thought, so his name is serious, and he is also an imperial doctor. He should be over 50 years old, but unexpectedly, the man behind Qinlin is a young child. His beautiful face, red lips and white teeth, a spotless white clothes, but also set off his face crown such as jade, temperament detached. Mo Shanghua was a little surprised. He immediately thought that he was also a young doctor, but he didn't feel it. He stood up with a smile and said, This must be Dr. Lu. Lu formal bent over a ceremony, voice as elegant and gentle as a person. Lu Zhengbukai, have seen the princess. Mo Shanghua Ingbai gently raised her hand and gently rubbed her forehead. Dr. Lu, I call you today. It's no big deal, but I'm not very refreshing. Please have a look. It's my job too. Lu Zheng returned in a low voice and went to the side of Mo Shanghua. He didn't feel his pulse yet. He just glanced at her cheek, and his heart was measured. But his brow was slightly wrinkled, and he seemed to be puzzled. Look at the face of the princess. It seems that there is a loss of qi and blood, but the princess will stay in the palace. How can? After hesitating for a while, he finally asked, Is the princess hurt these days? How could it hurt? Mo Shanghua was surprised. He didn't expect that Lu Zheng's medical skills also had such attainments. He said in a hurry, It's just that I've been greedy these days, and I've been eating raw and cold food, so I've lost some money. Lu Zhenglu thought about it. He did have this case. He didn't think about it deeply. In this way, I'll feel the pulse for the princess first. While speaking, he took down the medicine box on his back, took out the wrist pillow, and put it on the pear tree in front of the flower on the street. He made a gesture of please. A person's pulse condition is related to every part of the body. Lu Zheng's medical skill can tell a thing or two just by looking at his face. If you let him feel her pulse, it's hard to ensure that she won't be seen injured. Therefore, you must never let him feel her pulse. Thinking about the slender white wrist of the flower on the street can't help but slightly retract. No need. As if to see what Lu Zheng wanted to ask next, she explained in a low voice. To tell you the truth, I know some medical skills myself, and I already know something about myself. It's not all about the body that I asked you to come today. What's that? Lu Zheng's face was full of doubts, and he couldn't help asking. Mo Shanghua raised her hand and stroked her scarred cheek with a dim look. On the one hand, I want to ask you to fill my qi and blood with some medicine. On the other hand, it was because of my face. She didn't continue to say the following words, but the meaning was very clear. On the front of Lu's face, however, he was in a bit of a dilemma. It's easy to say that tonifying qi and blood is good, but the scar on the princess's face is too deep. I'm afraid that I can't match the prescription for removing the scar. At most, I can only make it lighter. Dr. Lu doesn't have to worry. Mo Shanghua had already guessed that he would say so, so he quietly replied, I've thought about this prescription hundreds of times, and I have some opinions on it. The prescription has already been written, just need your help. Oh. Lu Zheng picked his eyebrows slightly, and his face was a little curious. I wonder if the princess can lend me the prescription? Naturally. Mo Shanghua is very simply should come down, take out the prescription from sleeve, handed Lu Zheng. Lu Zheng took the prescription and looked at it carefully. He could not help but mutter, snowbone ginseng lark grass, ink lotus leaf coagulation grass. Reading this, he couldn't help wring his brows and looked at the flowers. The herbs in front of him are good for removing scars, but this clotting herb seems to be used for hemostasis. Lu Zhengbukai really can't figure out what's the point. Mo Shanghua didn't want to hide himself, so he patiently explained, I'm afraid I don't know, sir. I once read an ancient book, and saw that the effect of coagulation herb is far less than its scar-removing effect. It's just that this scar-removing place is not the root commonly used by people, but the most delicate part of its neck. There is such a saying. Lu was surprised, and then he could not help laughing with shame. It seems that I am really lack of talent and learning. Dr. Lu is serious, but I'm too boring in my boudoir, so I read many miscellaneous books. The lip petals of the flowers on the street are slightly white, and they are very modest. Lu Zheng nodded and continued to look down at the prescription in his hand. After a while he frowned again. Often to this end, Mo Shanghua patiently explained unconsciously, the two actually talked about the medical theory. Su Du is a doctor, so they are more congenial. Mo Shanghua even simply describes some modern medical theories to Lu Zheng, which makes Lu Zheng very surprised. He drooped his eyes and thought about it carefully. Then he found that what Mo Shanghua said was really reasonable, and the understanding was very unique, and he had never heard of it before, and her eyes suddenly changed. In addition to surprise, there was only excitement in my eyes. The color of excitement was faint with a little, as if the flower in front of me was a treasure. Lu Zheng felt that there was a voice whispering over and over again in his heart, telling him that if he didn't listen enough at present, he wanted to know more about medical theory from Mo Shanghua. His fingertips trembled slightly for a while. After a long time, he suppressed the excitement in his heart, and the Tiaoxin lake calmed down temporarily. By the way, I heard you mention the word operation just now. Lu Zheng is dull and thinks about it. He can't figure out what this operation is. Lu Zheng is really obsessed with medical skills. When he encounters something he doesn't understand, he humbly asks. Mo Shanghua has never been a stingy person, and now she has asked Lu Zheng, and she is happy to answer. Surgery, as the name suggests, is to use knives, scissors, needles and other things to remove and suture parts of the patient's body. Cut so. On the front of the willow, the puzzled color increased instead of decreasing. What's the meaning? The flower on the street drooped her eyes for a moment, and then raised her head again. For a simple example, it's like that someone is injured in daily life, whether they come to treat it or not. The wound is festering, and when they are treated, they need to scrape off the rotten meat. After a pause, she raised her hand and picked up a piece of cake from the sapphire dish on the table, broke it off a deep gap, pointed to the gap and said, Sometimes people's wounds are too deep, and it's not good to use medicine alone. At this time, they can only do surgery, and use a silver needle to thread the wound, so that they won't worry about the problem that the wound will collapse. Lu Zheng was surprised, but after thinking about it, he couldn't help but ask more questions. Although this method looks good, it can be used to pierce the skin and flesh with a needle. I'm afraid few people can bear the pain. And what should be done with the thread sewn into the skin and flesh? I used to. When it comes to medicine, Mo Shanghua can't finish talking about anesthesia in modern times. When it comes to general words, he can react to it and hastily changes his mouth. I used to read medical books and knew about surgery when I saw a miracle doctor in ancient times. At that time, there was ma boiling powder. If I used it, it would paralyze people and make them feel no pain. Now I have studied it, it's a surprise. With a little sigh of relief, she took a sip of tea and then continued. As for the suture, it's a special kind of catgut. After a long time, it will be born with the skin and flesh. There will be no side effects, and it doesn't need to be removed. While speaking, he took out the catgut from his sleeve and pushed it to Lu Zheng. Lu Zheng took the catgut and carefully put it under the lamp to watch it carefully. His eyes gradually showed some strange brilliance and exclaimed, "The princess is really knowledgeable. Lu Zheng is really ashamed when he sees it today. Just looking at his face, he can see that I am losing my qi and blood. His medical skills are very good. I just read more books." Mo Shanghua was extremely modest, with a smile on her lips. "I still have many things I don't understand. I need to ask Dr. Lu for advice." Being modest and polite, not arrogant and not impatient, and his medical knowledge is so unique and novel, which makes Lu Zheng appreciate in his heart, and at the same time gives birth to a feeling of sympathy. Although he thought so, he didn't show anything on his face. He picked up the prescription again, with a smile of regret. "I just focused on discussing the medical theory, but I haven't finished reading it yet. The princess is waiting for a while. I need to read it before I can give orders. Please help yourself." Mo Shanghua's delicate mandible is a little bit light. The facial expression has no dissatisfaction. Lu Zheng just slowed down his heart. Combined with the pharmacology that Mo Shanghua had said to him before, he carefully read the prescription, and sure enough, there was nothing he couldn't understand. However, in addition to the explanation given by Mo Shanghua, there are also several more precious herbs that have nothing to do with scars, which are used to expel poison. Lu Zheng had doubts in his mind. He wanted to ask, but after a moment's thought, Mo Shanghua didn't mention it just now, so he would not say it. With such care, I'm afraid the medicinal material is of great use to her. Lu Zheng's mind turned a few circles, and then he made a decision. When he didn't see anything, he put down the prescription. The princess's medicine is really excellent. The scar-removing effect must be extraordinary. After a while, I'll go back and immediately send someone to match it. The princess can rest assured. Lu Zheng's facial expressions were all absorbed into his eyes by Mo Shanghua, and the palm of his hand suddenly relaxed and pulled out a smile. "So thank you for your help. The princess is serious." Lu Zheng politely answered, and then pondered for a while, then suddenly said, "When the princess first came to the palace, I dared to persuade her that the people in the palace should not believe it easily." The flower face on the street suddenly surged up a bit surprised. Did not think much, a word then blurted out. "Also include Lu Imperial Doctor?" Lu Zheng was stunned. After a while, he came back to himself. His eyes were clear and moist. He didn't answer directly. Instead, he changed his voice. "It's late. I'll go back to make the medicine first. Later, I'll send it to the princess and leave." After that, he packed the medicine box, carried it on his back, and bowed down respectfully. Mo Shanghua looks at the empty seat. Lu Mei can't help frowning gently. It's really strange everywhere in Yu's mansion. Even looking at Lu Zheng, who is so easy to get along with, he can't tell how different he is from others. King Yu is just a prince who is not in favor, and he has been demoted to such a remote place. What else does he have that makes those people have to think about it? Lu Zheng had a certain position in Yuang's mansion. After he agreed to take flowers on the street, he soon gathered the herbs together and sent them to him in person. Of course, it's necessary to take so many precious medicinal materials for dispensing for no reason. After discussing with Lu Zheng, Mo Shanghua pretended to be ill, and the news came out that the princess was seriously ill. Just a few days after the wedding, the news that Princess Yu was seriously ill soon spread all over Yuzhou. For a time, it became the talk of the city people when they were idle. At the same time, it was also because of the fact that Princess Yu was seriously ill, which caused a lot of trouble. Nanha sits on the soft couch with his head down. His eyes sweep over the maids who are waiting on the side around him, and finally fall on Yan Beicheng, who is opposite him. I don't know whether he wants to ask you honor, the maid who is next to him, intentionally or unintentionally. You honor, I heard that the princess is ill. How are you these days? Without waiting for Yuan to answer, Yan Beiqing raised his head from the original false research picture album, and a deep color suddenly crossed his clear eyes. South Crane light persistent soft gauze PA's delicate fingers suddenly a tight, but the face did not show, is still that pair of soft and gentle appearance. Yuan didn't feel the slightest difference. She answered truthfully. Madam Hui, I went to see you this morning. Although I didn't see anyone, I still didn't get better after listening to the girl from Wu Yuan. How could that be? As he watched Yan Beiqing's look quietly, he began to worry. I saw you a few days ago. The princess is still ruddy. How can she be so sick now? Yuan, you are going to visit the princess with me later. Yan Beiqing, who had been watching for a long time, was moved in his heart. He immediately thought of the fact that Mo Shanghua had told him a few days ago that he wanted to make a prescription. He also had a number in his heart, and his eyes were indifferent. However, now still in front of people, he showed concern and asked casually, Is the princess ill? Don't you know? South Crane's pretty face was a little surprised, but deep in the soft eyes, there was a dark color. Although it seemed casual, she had never heard the Lord ask the woman beside her before. Now she asked the woman herself. Yan Beiqing looked down at the painting and calligraphy in front of him. He didn't notice the look in his eyes. He just nodded at random. Women are most sensitive to this convenience. In his heart, he imagines several possibilities. His long and sharp nails suddenly break through the soft gauze and make a slight tearing sound. What sound? Yin North City Sword Eyebrow Light CU. Mao Guang can't help but follow the direction that voice spreads to see past. The South Crane face does not change color of will break the whole of the PA sun to close into the palm. It is the spring day, the cat is in love, now perhaps is to scratch the veil bad. After a short pause, she turned her eyes and worried again. The princess was ill the day before yesterday. Dr. Liu personally went to see it. He said it was quite serious. It's spread all over the house. The prince's daily management is very good. I don't know it's normal, but the prince can rest assured that my concubine recites sutras and prays for the princess day by day. Although the princess's condition is not getting better, I believe that the princess will be lucky in the end. It seems that he is right. As for where the broken sound of the silk came from, he knew clearly in his heart. His eyes, which seemed clear, were deep and quiet. Oh. He nodded indifferently and put down the painting and calligraphy for the time being. With your blessing, she will be fine. After that, he turned his eyes and looked at Nanha. However, the princess is seriously ill. It's really shameful that I don't ask. You should have a good rest. I'll come to see you when I'm free. When Yan Beiqing left, the resentment from the bottom of Nanhe's eyes came out uncontrollably. The broken veil was rubbed and tightened in her hands until her fingertips turned white. She looked at the horse and followed him for so many years without any regrets. He didn't worry about her more than half of the time. This stranger was ugly in appearance and unpleasant in temperament. How could he care so much about her? Isn't it that he has already moved his heart to her? It seems that this stranger really has some skills, but the skills in the end do not depend on the moment. The hand that South Crane clenches PA Sun suddenly a loose, ruddy lip cape raises a touch of surreal radiance. However, no matter how the outside world upset the day, Mo Shanghua was not interested in paying attention to it for the time being. She just stayed in the room all day, pretending to be ill, and began to prepare antidotes at the same time. Mo Shanghua holds back the crowd, and orders Qin Lin and Qinya to guard outside. Then he puts the herbs Lu Zheng sent on the table one by one, and takes good care of them. Before dispensing, she would habitually twist some of them, put them on her nose and sniff them. Then she would put them into the medicine mill, and grind them carefully. Because Lu Zheng had already prepared the ingredients, she saved a step. Mo Shanghua stepped on the medicine mill, twisted a herb in his hand, hung his head and sniffed. This time, her face was not as cool as before, and her look in her eyes suddenly changed. She rushed to the end of her nose and smelled it carefully. Then she hung her head and turned it over in this bag of medicine with her hands, and her heart suddenly sank. Fern root is cold in nature and tastes sweet and bitter. Although this medicine is also sweet and bitter, it has a sour taste that seems to be absent. If you don't smell it carefully, you can't smell it at all. This medicine is fake. Emo Shanghua's face was slightly heavy, and a bad idea slowly floated in her heart. She was busy taking out all the remaining raw materials and checking them one by one. Under this inspection, it was found that half of these dozens of kinds of medicinal materials were fake. And one of the most critical medicine, especially terrible. It is not as good as other drugs, and has been replaced by a fake drug, but with a similar, enough to replace with a fake deadly poison. It seems that someone in this house wants her life. The medicine Lu Zheng gave him was also what he ordered the housekeeper to do. After the housekeeper came, he had to send someone to deliver it. I don't know how many people have been in charge during this period. If we really want to trace it, I'm afraid we need to make a lot of noise. Now she has to pretend to be ill, and can't do anything. But among these people, there is only one housekeeper who is most likely to hate her. The housekeeper is the emperor's person, so the one who really wants to take her life. The shallow and light eyes of the flowers on the street were suddenly dyed with a bit of Shun Ran, and a touch of killing intention. Others have already laid hands on her. How can she let those people go? It was in the meditation room that there was a knock on the door in the room, which had been silent for a long time. Qinya's voice came in from the outside. Princess, my wife and concubine of each courtyard have come to see you. Do you want to see me? Emo Shanghua's killing intention in her eyes immediately gathered a clean, deep and quiet color, and her eyes flashed away. Please come in. She would like to see what tricks these individuals are going to play. After hearing this, Qin Lin explains it to Qinya in sign language. Emo Shanghua also tidies up, takes some medicine that can change the complexion, and lies on the bed again. Just lay down. Emo Shanghua came in with a group of ladies and concubines, headed by Yunji and Pingji. But the most favorite, Nanhe, didn't come. I heard that he was watching the flowers with the king. Emo Shanghua was half lying on the bed, covered with a thick brocade quilt, pale as paper, and coughing twice from time to time. She looked very sick. The ladies and concubines had different thoughts when they saw the faces of the flowers on the street. Of course, they were more schadenfreude. Cloud Ji heart clearly wish Emo Shanghua die early, but face is full of worry. How is the princess's condition now? Can have improved? Our sisters came in a hurry as soon as they got the news. They were really worried. It's been a few days since the serious illness came out. Today I got the news that they really care about her. The flowers on the street were pale, and their lips were pale. It's all my fault. I can't control the girls' mouths. It's so early that I let the news out. I'm so worried that everyone came to see me in such a hurry. The words worried and urgent were bitten by her very seriously. The implication is self-evident. The faces of all the people were stiff. For a moment, they did not dare to answer. They were afraid that if they said something wrong, they would make this man unhappy. After all, she is now a dying person. If she wants to pull a few cushions, no one can stop her. Emo flower Mao light quietly from each person's expression one by one. Income Mao bottom. In passing one of them, Mao light can't help but get a meal. She's met this person. It's Xueji. Xueji's appearance is good, but at this time, she is drooping her head and can't see the look in her eyes. Her green fingers are holding her sleeve tightly, which seems to be some inexplicable tension. The color of flower eyes on the street was slightly deep, and suddenly she said, I'm greedy in my illness now. I heard that Xueji has got the best Xueyin tea. I don't have it. Would you like to share some with me? The sudden roll call made Xueji jump in her heart. She looked up in a hurry and raised a smile. Of course, if the princess wants it, I will send it to her. Her lips slightly stiff radiant. Emo Shanghua heart doubts even more, but the face is not obvious. Cover the chest light cough too, so thank you. Xueji clenched her sleeve, which suddenly relaxed, and sat back again. The buttock has not yet sat down. The voice of the flower on the street actually came again. By the way, I heard that the Lord just promised you to go home to visit your relatives a few days ago, but I don't know. Have you ever gone back? It's not that she pays more attention to Xueji. It's really that Yunji and Pingji come to her all day long to talk about this favor and that favor. It's hard for her to know. So a series of words down. Mo Shanghua busy and deliberately cover the chest. Keep coughing up, attracted people around a false concern. Mo Shanghua just waved her hand to show that she had nothing to do, and her eyes fell on Xueji. Xueji, palms from a sticky sweat, hesitated for a long time, just a little stiff, pulling lips. Has come, please worry about the princess. There are eyes everywhere in the palace. It's not a big thing, but she can't hide it at will. She doesn't dare to lie. Xueji is so lucky that she can save her family. On the other hand, it is rare to show a bit of admiration. The pale lips are slightly open, as if they want to say something. But before they finish, they are coughing. When people don't notice, she quietly gives Qinyu a look. Qinyu Dun understood that, blocking in front of the bed, respectfully after the ceremony, just raised his voice. The princess is short, ladies, please go back. There were no stupid people on the scene. They nodded one after another. After a while, they all dispersed, and the house was quiet again. The flower on the street's face faded from discomfort, turned over and sat up on the bed, looking as indifferent as ever. Qin Lin, go and check the details of Xueji quietly. Don't let people notice. Qinya, go and ask Imperial Dr. Lu to come here. Qin Lin and Qinya are deaf and dumb. They cooperate with each other. They don't need to say hello to each other. Then they understand that they are in a hurry. When Lu Zheng came, Mo Shanghua had already put on a thick coat and sat on the beauty couch in the side hall. Lu Zheng salutes in a regular way. This should have said the free Mo Shanghua, but at this time it turned a deaf ear. Not salty, light, slow enunciation. Lu Imperial Doctor, do you know what I call you at this time? Lu's face was full of doubts. He shook his head honestly. I'm stupid. I hope the princess can give me some advice. Naturally, it's a good thing that Dr. Lu did. Mo Shanghua's pale lips gently pulled out a sneer, eyes color frozen with snow. Yesterday sent those herbs, but mixed with nearly half of the fake medicine. This medicine is you personally sent, Lu Yui. You don't want to tell the princess, you don't know this. In fact, Lu Zheng did not know about it. When Yan stayed for a while, after a long time, he knelt down and said, the princess knows that before the medicinal materials are sent out, I have checked them. There is no possibility of any adulteration. The servant girl who was waiting in the room was also surprised. It was not because of the fake medicine, but because of the fact that the Imperial Dr. Lu, who was very powerful in the house, was reprimanded by the princess in public. He quietly raised his ears and watched. Mo Shanghua was not aware of the side eyes of the servant girls. She picked up the fake medicine on the table and threw it heavily in front of Lu Zheng. She said angrily, can the princess wrongly treat you? See for yourself whether this is true or not. Bang! The medicine fell to the ground and broke into pieces. Lu Zheng was a little surprised by the princess's behavior. Although he also felt wronged, he still twisted a piece of medicinal material the size of his thumb and went to the tip of his nose to identify it carefully. After a while, his face suddenly changed. How can this happen? The flower in the street sneered. The color of her eyes was very cold, but deep in the bottom of her eyes, she was indifferent. No matter who changed the fake medicine, you are the main person in charge of it. The fake medicine is not only what you see in front of your eyes, but also what kind of heart you want to kill the princess. Lu Zheng thought for a few seconds, and then said in a low voice, this is indeed my fault. I'm willing to help the princess investigate this matter. If the princess wants to punish me, I have no complaints. I'm bold and responsible. The flower eyes on the street gushed out some appreciation, but the face was deliberately condensing. After sinking for a long time, he nodded. You should know my illness, it can't be delayed. You can pass it to the relevant people now. Yes. Lu Zheng should be next. This just stood again to come in. To oneself after death of medicine Tong Fun enjoined some time. Before long, all the people, from housekeeper to servant girl, were brought in. People who have access to drugs and other things are all old people in the government. They are all old-timers. They just push each other around and refuse to admit that it's their own fault. The case has no progress. The flower eyebrow on the Mo deeply pondered for a while, at random ordered a mammy to come out. You said you were on duty when the housekeeper asked people to take medicine, but you were ill, so you didn't come? Mammy Zhang was suddenly ordered, her body trembled a little, and she quickly lowered herself. Yes, I dare not lie. Mo Shang Hua Maoguang deeply stares at this mammy to see for a while, just wait. Mammy is so old, harm some disease is also normal, just don't know what disease does mammy harm that day. Mammy Zhang's heart suddenly jumped, palms chin a little sweat, but dare not return, just casually said. It's just an old problem, take medicine, it doesn't matter. I'm flattered to let the princess ask. The flower on the street didn't answer. He waved to Qin Lin, and whispered a few words. Then Qin Lin nodded and went down in a hurry. Zhang Wang and others, who were standing on one side, trembled for no reason in their hearts. They felt more and more uneasy in their hearts. They were too busy to say a word. The house was quiet for a long time. The flower on the street just covered her lips and coughed twice. Suddenly, she turned her tone and asked softly, Look at Mammy's age. I've been working in the house for more than half a year. Mammy Zhang couldn't figure out what the flowers were thinking. She hesitated for a while and then said, Yes. Mammy has been buried in this palace for most of her life. After working hard for a long time, she has fallen into this kind of trouble. It happens that today, Imperial Dr. Liu is also here, but we must let him help Mammy to have a look. If not, if it's spread out, outsiders will only say that I'm not human in Yu Palace. Mammy Zhang is very strong. She always bullies girls and boys. How can she have those problems? Just now she was just talking nonsense. How can she let Dr. Liu come to see her? She was so scared that she turned pale and shook her head. Dr. Liu is a noble man, but the old slave is a humble man. I can't do that. Lu Zheng looked at Mammy Zhang's face, and then glanced at the look of flowers on the street. Unexpectedly, it was also a strange cooperation. All patients here are regardless of the noble and the humble. Mammy doesn't have to be like this. As he spoke, he had already come to Mammy Zhang, trying to feel her pulse. Mammy Zhang dared not let Lu Zheng feel her pulse. She suddenly turned pale with fright. She could only say that she couldn't use it, and her hands were shrinking back desperately. Just at this time, Qin Lin came back from his work, went to Mo Shanghua's side, explained it in sign language with Qinya, and asked Qinya to tell Mo Shanghua. The pale face of the flower on the street suddenly became cold, with a cold voice. Mammy, I just let people inquire about it. Except for the gold and silver you save, you don't even have the smell of medicine in your room. It's very important. How dare you lie? It is impossible for people who have been ill all year round to have no medicine or fragrance in the house. Mammy Zhang was frightened by the words from the stranger, so she sat down on the ground. After a while, she kowtowed her head. Princess Mingjian, although I was in a panic, I really didn't do anything else. The flower on the road is hooking the corner of lips, coldly smile. That you that day in the end go? Go. Mo Shanghua Maoguang sweeps the housekeeper and others' faces one by one from the side. Maoguang seems to coagulate the essence of the knife, which makes people feel cold at the bottom of their heart. Those who had spoken to Mammy Zhang couldn't bear it. As soon as their legs softened, they knelt down and began to cry. Princess, please forgive me. I'm just afraid of taking the blame. Princess, please forgive me. This matter is so important that you and others cover up for each other and tell lies. If we don't punish them properly, how can we convince the public in the future? Mo Shanghua's voice was icy cold, without any emotion. He was a little angry. Come on, beat all these people 30 times and throw them into the room. As soon as the voice fell, Qin Lin called and dragged everyone out. Mo Shanghua specially asked people to fight those people outside the hospital. Therefore, the voices of those people were crying and howling because of pain, and they could be heard clearly in the room. This woman is really vicious. Zhang Wan swallowed his saliva, and his palm was sticky. The flower on the street seems to have an induction. She looks sideways, and faintly draws out a smile on her face. Zhang Wan's heart suddenly trembled violently, bit his teeth, suddenly stepped forward, knelt down in front of the flower on the street, and kowtowed deeply. Fong said, Princess, it suddenly occurred to me that after Dr. Lu checked the herbs that day, I gave them to Wang Xie and asked him to send them. He was the last one to handle them. Oh. Mo Shanghua's body leans back lightly. It seems that he has some interest. Zhang Wan just wanted to finish the matter quickly, so he killed the man and said, Wang Xie has always been an evil person. He's the best gambler on weekdays. Everyone in the government has heard of him. He's the last one to deal with it. It must be for gambling that he quietly changed the real herbs and sold them. Before the flowers on the street opened their mouths, the princes in the procession knelt down and kowtowed. Princess Mingjian, although the slaves love gambling, they dare not be careless about the matter of human life. I beg for Princess Mingjian. Wang Kai, I remember that before you entered the government, you lost your daughter-in-law. You can do all kinds of things like this. What dare you do? There was a fierce color in Zhang's eyes. Without waiting for Wang Kaiduo to say that, he busily looked at the flowers in the street. If the princess doesn't believe it, she can ask people to search his house. There must be a lot of IOU in it. In this way, it can prove that what the slave said is true. While he was talking, he glanced at the two boys in the line. Two small see immediately reaction come over, busy all kneel down. To the princess, Wang Kai borrowed 30 liang of silver from the slave before, and suddenly returned it yesterday. This can be used as evidence. Yes, princess and slave, he also returned it yesterday. Zhang Wang's lips quietly hooked the hook, immediately settled down, calmly arched his hand. The evidence is solid, please Princess Mingjian. Hua Mingming put the housekeeper's little actions into his eyes, but he didn't seem to find them. After thinking for a while, he said, Wang Kai, can you confess your guilt? Wang Kai had already been frightened by this series of frame-ups and turned pale. At this time, he thought that things had taken a turn for the better. He kowtowed busily, his nose was runny and his tears were streaming. I'm wronged. It's really stubborn. Mo Shanghua's face was slightly heavy. He coughed twice, drank a glass of water, and then said, since the evidence is solid, I can't deny it. When someone came, Wang just changed the fake medicine. It's a terrible crime. He beat 50 big boards hard, and then abandoned one of his legs and drove him out of the house. This matter involves a lot, and her original purpose has been achieved. There is no need to continue to pursue. Zhang Wan's heart was suddenly relieved, and he was completely settled down. But that Wang Xie was scared out of control on the spot. However, no matter how he cried, he was forced to drag out. After a while, he heard bursts of shrill screams from outside. Mo Shanghua takes the green tea cup on the table and plays with it casually. The long eyelashes of Pu Fan cover the brilliance in her eyes, making people unable to see through what she thinks. But that pair of calm appearance, but as if also can't hear outside screams sound general. Zhang Wan looked up secretly, only felt cold in his heart, and could not stop scolding at the bottom of his heart. The woman was so vicious that she could turn a deaf ear to such an insidious voice. Just want to come forward to ask an order to leave. But outside the hall came Yan Beiqing with a kind of sigh-like voice. It's a good noon. What are you doing outside? It's bloody. It's so miserable. It's just seeping at you. While talking, Yan Beiqing strided in and swept around the room with his sword eyebrows frowning. Why is the room so busy? The people in the room saw that it was Yan Beiqing. They all knelt down to salute. Even the flowers in the street got up and blessed themselves a little. For a moment, there was no one to answer his question. Yan Beiqing waved his hand and let everyone get up. He waved his hand and let everyone get up. No one has said yet. What's the matter? Who will explain it to Wang? Said the vision subconsciously looked to Zhang Wang. Zhang Wan was about to open his mouth to answer, but the voice of Hua Shiruan in the street suddenly rang. Lord Hui, it's like this. I found that the medicine I sent today was adulterated. I was just investigating this matter. When she spoke, she coughed with her lips covered from time to time, and her pale face made her look terminally ill. Yan Beiqing's eyes swept over the pale face of the flowers on the street, and the bottom of his eyes was clear. He quickly flashed a little deep, but in a twinkling of an eye, he regained his dandy appearance. Fake medicine? He was surprised and exclaimed, how could there be fake medicine in my palace? Mo Xianghua glanced at Yan Beiqing's look. Lu Mei frowned gently, but he didn't say anything at all. Yan Beiqing shouts and shouts, then takes his eyes, sits down beside Mo Xianghua, and says in a loud voice, "This fake medicine is very important, so we must thoroughly investigate it. As the master of King Yu's mansion, I have to take the responsibility and personally investigate it." Mo Xianghua raised her hand and gently pressed the forehead, which was not painful. She gently reminded, "Lord, I just caught the person who changed the fake medicine. What you just saw outside is that." Yan Beiqing's lips were stiff. Seeing that everyone was looking at himself, he felt a little embarrassed. He said hastily, "How can we make such a hasty decision? This change of fake medicine is related to the life of the princess. You need to investigate carefully. Otherwise, others think that the king doesn't even care about the affairs of the princess." Having said that, he looked at Zhang Wan with great significance and said, "Go and bring in the people from outside first, and then you will tell the matter in detail." When Zhang Wan saw this, he was not afraid at all. He slowly came forward and asked people to bring Wang Xiai in. Then he deliberately made a long speech and told the story again. Yan Beiqing's character of the heat in the past 3 minutes, he thought he knew better. He said so intentionally. The stupid prince certainly didn't want to continue to listen. Sure enough, in a short time, Yan Beiqing showed his impatience, but in order to save some face, he forced himself to listen. Zhang Wang looked at the flower's face, knowing that he was impatient, but deliberately said, "Please make up your mind. It suddenly occurred to me that some of my official business had not been dealt with." Yan Beiqing leaned on the back of his chair with a headache, waved his hand, and said, "The princess is seriously ill, housekeeper. You are the person who knows the matter most except the princess. This case will be handled by the housekeeper. Please let me see the result as soon as possible." No one paid attention to his eyes, which seemed to be quiet and could be seen to the end, but they flickered a little, and the dark light passed in a moment. Zhang Wan's heart was filled with pride, and he bent over to salute. "I'm sure I won't disgrace my life. Please rest assured." All right, let's go first." After a pause, Yan Beiqing looked sideways at Mo Xianghua and added casually, "Let the princess have a good rest." After that, without waiting for others to step down, he left first. He didn't say anything to the stranger. He looked perfunctory and indifferent. Mo Xianghua looks at Yan Beiqing's back figure who leaves in a hurry, and sweeps Zhang Wan's eye quietly, and her eyebrows frown gently. Zhang Wan's heart is clearly not in Yu's mansion. How can Yan Beiqing trust him so easily and give Zhang Wan the decision-making power of this matter? Is he really stupid or fake stupid? Qinghuan Pavilion. Hua Qianlu opened the window and said to the outside, "Come on, bring a pot of wine. It's hot." A maid answered outside the door. He was about to close the window when he heard some men gossiping like women as they walked. "Have you heard? Our prince's new princess is still a shrew." "It's not true. I've been tossing about all the time when I'm sick. I've heard that I've killed a lot of servant girls and even concubines who have been made to be small super." "Tut tut, I'm afraid the Lord will suffer from such a fierce man in the future." A few people said very lively, Flower Thousand Willow originally want to listen to, but that group of people have gone far. He was boring, closed the window to go back. It's said that the princess has caused some trouble again. Now she's wearing a reputation as a shrew. Flower Thousand Willow sighed with folding fan. "Please knock palm. One side toward Yen North City Walk. You this princess, poor really interesting son extremely." Just now the door and window came, and the martial arts practitioners were always hearing and seeing clearly. Naturally, Yan Beiqing also heard those words, but there was no mood fluctuation on his face. He only nodded his head lightly, and then there was no following. However, the bottom of the drooping eyes is a bit dark. The news in the inner courtyard of the deep house spread so fast. It seems that there are a lot of people with heart in this house. When Hua Qianlu saw that he didn't speak, she was not angry at all. She just approached him and said with a smile, "Now I'm more and more interested in you, princess. Or you can arrange for me to meet your interesting princess sometime." Yan Beiqing's face was so indifferent that his sword eyebrows suddenly wrinkled. "No way. After a pause, he seemed to feel that something was wrong and added, "She is still ill now. She is not a person." "Then I'll go and have a look." Flowers on the face of 1,000 willows' smile did not reduce. Disease to fall like a mountain, in case the future cannot see how to do. Talk a lot. Yan Beiqing frowned and scolded lightly, with a kind of imperceptible displeasure at the bottom of his eyes. He raised his hand and sent a cup of tea to his mouth. He obviously didn't want to continue this topic. Hua Qianlu turned her lips and sat down. Just at this time, the wine came to him. He turned his eyes and poured wine for him. He said, "Otherwise there are many idle people here. I'll send 2 of them in to serve you as a princess. Of course, it's better to pay more attention by the way, so that you can tell him the funny things about flowers in the street." Yan Beiqing subconsciously wanted to refuse, but on second thought, Huiqianlia people here really have some skills. It's not a bad decision to send them. Although he thought so, he looked at Hua Qianlu with a smile on his face. "You have a lot of idle people here. When I was in Yuangfu, I was the one who raised idle people." Hua Qianlu gritted her teeth and inked for a long time before she said, "The 2 who know how to fight are always good. You just need to send them to her. That is to say, it's okay to do chores. The most important thing is, as long as they are where they are, they can pay attention to her." Yan Beiqing thin lips this just light hook up. The look in the eye is like long deep you don't see the bottom. Because the ghost had already been found that day, Zhang Wan also made some superficial efforts at random, and produced some so-called evidence, so he convicted the ghost, and took Wang Kai's confession to find Mo Shanghua and Yan Beiqing. To the prince and the princess, the slave has made a clear investigation of this matter. It is true that Wang Kai owes too much gambling debt outside. He was pressed for debt, so he had a bad idea. He quietly changed the good medicinal materials into fake ones to make a profit. Said, and will be a small package of medicinal materials presented up. This is from his room to find out the extra fake medicine. Such evidence, of course, is not to be relied on. Yan Beiqing immediately nodded lazily and said, "It's better for the housekeeper to find out so soon. However, this matter has harmed the princess, so it should be decided by the princess." Mo Shanghua's eyes could not help falling on Yan Beiqing's face. In the ink pupil, there was a bit of Yu micro-smoked color. According to the housekeeper? Zhang was in a daze. He lowered his head cleverly. "I dare not speak in vain. It's kind of smart." Mo Shanghua sighed in her heart, but did not show it on her face. After pondering for a while she said, "Why don't you just keep yesterday's judgment? What do you think of it?" "Nature is excellent." Yan Beiqing nodded casually. "Housekeeper, go ahead, but remember to go far away. Don't come here to pollute people's ears and eyes." "Yes." Zhang should be under the wrong. Turning around, the eyes are very hot, the color of satisfaction to show one by one. Mo Shanghua took a look at Yan Beiqing, who was still on the side. She covered her lips and coughed lightly for a while. She said, "I'm too sick. Please come back quickly. Don't give it to you." Yan North City Mao Bottom delimits a few minutes dark color, looked back to glance at the flower on the road one eye. After a long time he stood up and said, "Since you say so, I will not stay any more. Come and live in Qingjiu." Qingjiu, such an elegant name, is the place where Nanha lives. Until Yan Beiqing left, there was no change in the eyebrows and eyes on the street. It was just that the disguised illness was finally collected. Her Mao color is indifferent of sea toward Qinlin, soft voice openings. Snowji's bottom details check of how. Qinlin thought for a while, trying to use sign language and Murakami's lips to teach him, and said, "It has been found out. Xueji entered the government a year ago. She is neither in favor nor out of favor. When the Lord is free, he will come to see her. She was a member of Yuzhou's Nanjun family, and her father was the governor of Nanjun, who was a student of Prime Minister Liu. The rest is nothing special." As for the others, the slave also found out that Xueji's mother, he sure, did visit her a few days ago, but did not bring anything. After a pause, he took out a piece of paper with dense words from his sleeve pocket. "This is more detailed information." Mo Shanghua took the materials from Qinlin, picked out some useful ones for her, read them carefully, and let Qinlin go down first. She was alone in the room and couldn't help thinking. Prime Minister Liu hates her to the bone. Xueji's father is also a student of Prime Minister Liu's students. He has some connections with Prime Minister Liu, and there are countless connections between them. In addition, Xueji's mother came to visit, and there was ample opportunity to send in the highly toxic and fake medicine. What didn't work was that her mother didn't bring anything in. And then I thought, how can Prime Minister Liu's hand reach here when the sky is high and the emperor is far away? Mo Shanghua thinks for a long time, but the more he thinks, the more confused he feels. He can comb it a little, but he can clear it, but he can't confirm it 100% after all. Thinking of this, her paper-like white lips gently evoke a cold smile. Just as she was thinking, the sudden knock on the door interrupted her thoughts. Princess, here comes Dr. Liu. I see. Mo Shanghua takes back her thoughts, and goes to the side hall after preparing. Lu Zheng slightly glanced and nodded to the medicine boy behind him. The medicine boy came over, and quickly stepped forward and offered all the herbs in his hand. Lu Zhengyang pointed to the herbs in Yaodong's hands, and his voice was clear and smooth as usual. In order to avoid mistakes in the herbs, this time, I went to catch them and sent them myself. I didn't go through the hands of a third person. The princess can rest assured. Mo Shanghua Maoguang swept an eye on that medicinal material. The look in Mao's light did not let a person go to pick up. Lu Zheng, to be honest, doesn't trust him. She just appreciates his medical skills. Seeing this, Lu Zheng understood naturally in his heart. After pondering for a moment, he said, "The princess can check it by herself now." Mo Shanghua pale, lips light pursed, if the water ripple eyes, with people do not understand the deep color. For a long time, she suddenly hook lip shallow smile, water eyes but no smile. Lu, you doctor wear words, you have already done so far, how can I doubt those have not? In the meantime, Qinya has been asked to take things away. It's Wei Chen who is worried too much. Lu Zheng quite elegant smile. Moreover, even if the princess really doubt, micro-minister is understandable, the princess really don't have to blame. Dr. Liu is really a careful man. Mo Shanghua nodded with a smile, and said casually, "The princess praised me falsely." Lu Zheng modest should ma bottom a quiet. Micro-minister will also go to give Mrs. Cloud please peace pulse first leave. Qinlin, send Dr. Liu out. Mo Shanghua politely answered. When Lu Zheng was far away, she took the medicine back to her house and closed the doors and windows again to let Qinya guard the door. Although got Lu Zheng's guarantee, but Mo Shanghua also dare not trust a person with these words, or patiently unpack each package of medicinal materials to check. The full-bodied fragrance of herbs scattered in the whole room, with a faint taste of sweetness and bitterness, but the flowers on the street seemed to be unconscious. With their keen sense of smell and familiarity with the drugs, they clearly distinguished the authenticity of each package of herbs from the full-bodied fragrance of the room. Lu Zheng didn't lie. There was no adulteration in the medicinal materials he sent this time, and all of them were of the best quality. It was better than the situation of the last time when the true and the false were mixed together, and the good and the bad were mixed together. Mo Shanghua just boasted that his careful was just a casual remark, but he didn't expect that it should be true now. Lu Zheng was really careful. Thinking about it, she picked up a small bag of herbs, and poured them into the medicine mill to grind them. As a matter of fact, when these medicinal materials were delivered, they were all processed. Usually, they were taken directly to boil the medicine at home. But Mo Shanghua is used to make jiadu pills. The rough treatment of these herbs is far from the standard she needs. Mo Shanghua is very skillful in the treatment of medicinal materials, but it took less than half an hour to finish the treatment, and began to concentrate on the preparation. It took me 2 hours to make the antidote pill, with half of the amount of medicinal materials, but also made a small medicinal material only. Mo Shanghua's fingertips gently twisted the black pill in his hand, which was only the size of nail cap. His eyes finally showed a slightly relaxed look for the only time in so many days. Take the pill to the mouth. After a while, the soft pill melts in the mouth. With the passage of time, the chest, which would have been in pain when it was poisoned, overflowed with a warm feeling, and then slowly spread from the chest to the forelimbs, and even the brain became sober. The poison, which has been dormant for many months, is finally cured. Mo Shanghua gently spits out a mouthful of turbid gas. Mao Guangri looks at the remaining drugs on the table. After pondering for a while, she picked up 2 kinds of medicinal materials and utensils again, and began to mix the scar-removing ointment. There is no woman who doesn't care about her appearance. Flowers on the street are also women, and naturally they are no exception. In addition, she specially left the highly toxic substance in yesterday's fake medicine to extract the toxin for poison production. There are more than 200 people in the palace of King Yu. All of them are making their own calculations, and the palace of King Yu is full of mysteries. It's no exaggeration to say that the storm is surging secretly. The enemy is in the dark, and she is in the Ming dynasty. If she wants to live in King Yu's mansion for a long time, she must have her own inside information and contacts. She has to make plans for herself. She had a hunch that the poison would be used sooner or later. Of course, if you want to have the details, naturally you can't stick to a little Yu's mansion. She also needs to go out and have a look. Mo Shanghua has been thinking about this idea for a long time. Now that the poison on her body has been removed, she has been told that she has recovered. Then she leads Qin Lin, Qinya and a young man out of the house of King Yu. He lived in Yuzhou for many years and was very familiar with Yuzhou city. Therefore, Mo Shanghua asked him to lead the way all the way, followed him and looked at the situation of Yuzhou city secretly. Yuzhou city was only a little smaller than the emperor, but the bustle during the period was worse than half. Yuzhou is a remote city between the desert edge and the barren Lus slope. It is desolate on both sides, so Yuzhou is not much better. In this way, it is the best of the 4 desolate border cities in the Kingdom of God. Most of the buildings in the street are made of civil engineering. The houses are relatively low and the windows are very small. I'm afraid of sand. Except for these, other places are similar to the houses in the imperial capital. However, only half of these houses are built by civil engineering. In the other quarter of the city, earth houses are still built, and the soil on the walls can be scraped off with a shovel. As for the remaining 1/8 of Li, it is the place where the officials built with glazed tiles live. From the outside, you can see that it must be magnificent inside. Even the doorman's clothes are much better than the people in the city. The gap between the rich and the poor is not big. There are not many people who set up stalls on the streets. Even the people who go to the streets are only a few. Compared with the imperial capital, they are tens of times worse. Mo Shanghua moves her steps behind the peddler. When she passes by the peddler, her eyes can't help sweeping the people in front of the peddler and the peddler's boss. I saw that none of these people were wearing coarse clothes, but the women were covered with headscarves. It was strange to see them. The flower on the street glanced a little. Before asking, Qinya asked, "Why do these people cover so tightly?" "We have a lot of dust. It's just sandproof for women." The boy turns his head to answer eagerly, and Qin Lin explains it to Qinya with sign language. The flower on the street nodded a little, and her eyes fell on the caravan that came far away. "These people in strange clothes are people who do business in other countries?" "Yes." The young man nodded and said with a flattering smile, "The princess doesn't know. Our Yuzhou city is near the border of other countries. The caravans from other countries will come to rest more or less. If we don't make good use of such a great advantage, Yuzhou city will be barren. What is Yanbei city thinking all day long? Is it hard to just look for flowers and willows?" Looking for flowers and willows. The flower water Mao on the Mo lightly flashed a dark light. The footstep Tiny Dun lives. Where is your this place of seeking flowers and asking willows? I've seen the prosperity of King Yu's mansion, the place where people live, and the streets. But now there is no place where people look for flowers and willows. I'm afraid that such a place is also prosperous and rich. She needs to go and have a look. When she came out today, it happened that Yanbei city went to seek flowers and willows again, so she was able to come out on the ground of seeking Yanbei city. Now when she asked about the land of seeking flowers and willows, I just thought I had enough flowers on the street. Now I'm going to find the Lord, and my heart suddenly shakes. The name of the flower on the street is fierce and vicious, but the whole Yuzhou city knows it well. If you come here now, you won't make the Lord look good. If you annoy the Lord, you will even be involved. But in the current situation, how dare he not? After hesitating for a long time, the boy bit his teeth and said, "Princess, this way please." The flower on the street put the boy's expression into the bottom of his eyes, but he couldn't see it. He hurriedly followed him. The luxury of this place is hundreds of times better than that of other places. It can even be said that it is a place every day. Emo Shanghua was dressed as a woman, with 3 people following her. However, as soon as she stepped into the land of smoke and willows, she attracted a large number of eyes. Qinya is a thin-skinned man. She blushes at the moment, but she still doesn't say much. She lowers her head and follows the flowers in the street. Hua Qianlu, as early as in the street, just as Hua stepped into the street, he received the news and went downstairs early, waiting to see the excitement on the first floor of Chenghuan Pavilion. Emo Shanghua was stopped by 2 girls before she could step into Chenghuan Pavilion, the first red chamber in Yuzhou. One of them, with pink face and peach cheek, was not right when he saw the posture of flowers on the street. He blocked her way and said, "Madam, we are looking for flowers and willows. Women can't enter. You'd better go back." Oh, the flower on the street drew a long ending, slightly raised her eyes and glanced at the woman. "Why can't you enter? Can't a woman look for flowers and ask for willows?" The woman obviously didn't expect that the answer of Emo Shanghua was so strange that she couldn't find any words to refute. Emo Shanghua Vermilion Lip Angle Micro can't check of light hook for a while, lift a step to want to bypass a woman in the past. Seeing this, another woman quickly grabbed the arm of Emo Shanghua and raised her voice. "You can't go in. If you disturb others, don't say we can't even afford you." When the flower eyes on the street were cold, they looked at the woman with frozen eyes, and their voice was slightly cold. "It turns out that you, the first red mansion in Yuzhou, are such a way of hospitality." As soon as the voice fell, the woman also gave a cold hum and said in a sharp voice, "I think you've come here to find fault. Somebody throw them out." Having said that, the potential darkness of the big men, they are quietly surrounded up, will spend a group of people firmly surrounded in the street. The flower eyes on the street are covered with a layer of awe-inspiring color. Between the white fingers, a few silver needles are covered in an instant. In the bright light, there is a faint chill. The flower willow sitting in the building watching the play. Eyes sharp fell on the silver needle between her fingers. Eyes' interest immediately more rich. Qinya was so scared that she quickly stopped in front of Emo Shanghua and said, "I'm blind. This is Princess Yu. Who dares to move?" Seeing this, Qin Lin hurriedly took out the money card of King Yu's house and held it up to the woman. Woman Lung Lung, after a while pale down, busy blessing body down. "People don't know, Princess forgive, Princess forgive." The rest of the people looked at the scene, and before they had time to kneel down, Hua Qianlu suddenly rang in front of the quiet door with a lazy voice. "Who am I? It turns out that I am the one rumored recently Princess Yu." In the middle of the speech, he swallowed the word shrew, which was about to be blurted out, and his face looked a little coy for a moment. The cold color in the flower eyes on the street is slightly astringent, and I look along the direction of the sound. I saw that Hua Qianlu was dressed in a big red shirt with a beautiful face. When I walked, I did not forget to open the folding fan in my hand and put it in my hand. Every move was unique. When the woman and the people around her saw him, they all saluted with good fortune, and their reaction speed was faster than when they just arrived at the flower. The silver needle between the fingers of the flower on the street suddenly closed, and put the reaction of the people around him into the bottom of his eyes. Suddenly, the water eyes were a little surprised. The tortoise was like this. Isn't it a duck shop? The brothel is not the bustard, but the tortoise. Anyway, it's still such a beautiful man, which makes me wonder. Unexpectedly, Hua Qianlu smiles instead of anger, and shakes the folding fan to come forward. What am I like this? Well, he was born very beautiful, and his facial features were exquisite, which was 3 points more beautiful than that of a woman. At this time, he deliberately teased her, and his eyebrows and eyes were stained with the charming color of a woman. All the people in the audience could not help breathing, and their eyes showed the color of obsession. The flower on the street is clear from the beginning to the end. He gives him a look, and his voice is indifferent and cold. I just praise you. Thank you very much. Hua Qianliu's smile deepened. She closed the folding fan in her hand and gently touched her cheek. Your facial features are pretty good. Apart from the scars, he could see that her features were really beautiful. However, his every move was meant to be frivolous. Such a blatant molestation. If you change to be a woman on one side, I'm afraid she will blush or go away with shame. But she is not an ordinary woman. She is a shrew that has been widely spread recently. For a moment, people's eyes could not help falling on her. A look of waiting to see a good play. The flowers on the street are just cold eyes, with thousands of willows, and the bottom of water eyes is filled with a touch of color of exploration. Although Hua Qianlu looks frivolous and rude, he walks steadily and briskly. At a glance, he knows that he has excellent martial arts skills. She only looks at those fox eyes, and she can see that he is not simple. Just as she was thinking about it, Hua Qianlu stepped forward and gently raised her delicate jaw with a folding fan. The corners of her lips were full of frivolous smiles. Why, but I was fascinated by my child's appearance. I can't say anything shy? Seeing that Hua Qianliu's behavior became more and more bold, the people around him became more and more interested, and they all stared at him. The flower on the street is slightly stunned, and the vermilion lip moves. I don't know what I think of. If it has already rolled into my mouth, I swallow it again. Just when people think that the flowers on the street are shy and at a loss, a needle of noise suddenly comes from the second floor. The crowd on the second floor, which is crowded with people, makes way for a narrow passage. But Yan Beiqing came out of the crowd holding a beautiful woman. He stood on the second floor and looked down. When he saw the scene below, he couldn't help raising his voice and said with a bit of surprise, "How did you come here?" As he spoke, he seemed to see the flower willows on the folding fan which had not been taken back. His eyes suddenly changed. He left the beauty behind and hurried downstairs. He frowned discontentedly. You are a woman from all over the world. You came here quietly behind my king. Don't you want to put a green hat on my king, princess? Princess, 2 words he bite very heavy, full of a pair of although don't like flowers, but also can't tolerate her and others have an affair appearance. When Hua Qianlu saw this, he knew that Yan Beiqing was starting to act again. When he got excited, he closed the folding fan and said with a smile, "It's said that the prince and the princess don't care about it. Now how can they be willing to leave the warm and fragrant nephrite?" The flower on the street glanced at the willows, moved 2 steps to the side quietly, and said in a cold voice, "The tortoise is really powerful. He even knows a lot about things in the palace." Flower thousand willow don't think of smile, fox eyes slightly curved. Where, but is the city people all know things. Before the flowers on the street could speak, Yan Beiqing turned black. Aren't you 2 dead when we are king? How dare you, how dare you? Maybe it was because of anger, but he turned red and couldn't say what he said. The flower on the street frowned lightly, and her voice was puzzled. We just said a few words. Why are you so excited? Mo Shanghua has never experienced this kind of feelings in her previous life. She is usually busy with her work and has little time to make up for soap operas and dog blood novels. Therefore, she is extremely slow in this respect. I can't figure out why she is not very friendly with Hua Qianlu. What is it worth him to be angry about? People with a clear eye can see what they know, but they don't know what flowers on the street are. This makes Yan Beiqing suddenly blow up his hair and say angrily, You are so rotten. I don't want to talk to you, ugly woman." Hua Qianlu seldom sees Yan Beiqing pretending. Now she is not happy. She can't help but come forward and poke in a joke. Tut tut, it seems that the rumor is wrong. The prince still cares about the princess, but the princess, tut. The meaning between words is self-evident. It's none of your business. Yen North City quite some impatient and depraved interrupt. Mao Bottom once crossed a touch of not easy to detect of charmed and quiet color. Talk a lot. Mo Shanghua's heart light Cu spits out a word. then crosses Yan Beiqing and walks towards Qinghuan Pavilion. Just took 2 steps, Yan Beiqing grabbed her white wrist and said, "What are you doing?" Mo Shanghua's steps had to stop, but his eyes had no waves and no waves. He said in a light voice, "I've wasted a long time. I should go in and have a look." With these words, people thought that she was going to go in and catch the woman Yan Beiqing had held before. They immediately sighed. Even the girl could not help but turn white. Yan North City obviously also thought of this, busy block in front of her, coldly looking at her. "You make enough, don't want in disgrace now with the king back." The next second, Mo Shanghua only feels the strength between the wrists, and the whole person can't help being pulled forward by Yan Beiqing. She was stunned for a moment, and her water eyes were staring at Yan Beiqing's back. When the reaction came, the whole person had already reached the threshold. She didn't know what to think in her heart. The hand that she wanted to struggle actually stopped, and let him pull her away. Hua Qianlu shakes the folding fan, and follows to the door. Looking at the flowers on the street pulled by Yan Beiqing, the radiance of her thin lips expands slowly, but she sighs in a low voice. This boy's accomplishments in acting are really incomparable to ordinary people. Mo Shanghua was directly brought back to the palace by Yan Beiqing, and then continuously brought to the dockyard. But she held her hand firmly, but she didn't relax. His eyes full of anger turned around and said, "You all go down." Everyone answered, and after a while, they retreated completely. Only Qin Lin and Qinya, both of whom are worried, look at the flowers in the street and refuse to leave. Mo Shanghua knew their loyalty. She shook her head and gave them a reassuring look. Seeing this, Qin Lin and Qinya retreated in 3 steps. 2 talents just went out. In North City pulled Mo Shanghua to the bedside, pushed her to the bed, the whole person followed down. The flower on the street only feels a heavy burden on her body. When she raises her eyes, she knows that she looks into a pair of clear eyes, but there are some inexplicable angry eyes that she can't understand. Her eyebrows can't help but slightly frown. Yan Beiqing is learning to just spend the appearance of 1,000 willows, gently holding her jaw, voice low. "You come to Qinghuan Pavilion today. Do you want to sleep this king?" "What are you talking about?" Mo Shanghua looked at him in surprise, and her eyes were a little puzzled. Yan Beiqing snorted discontentedly. He put his hands beside her ears and drew the distance between them closer. "What did you say, don't you know?" Warm breathing all spray on the cheek, crisp itching feeling, let Mo Shanghua heart frown more tightly, can't help but say, "You get up." After hearing this, Yan Beiqing simply stopped and put all the weight of her body on her. His stubborn hum ignored her words. Childish. Mo Shanghua was silent and cursed in her heart. She didn't want to make trouble with him. She put her hands on his chest and pushed him away. But unexpectedly, she just ready to get up. Yan Beiqing somehow, a hook in the long arm, pulled her to his arms, heavily fell on his chest. A sense of insecurity suddenly appeared in the flower heart on the street. Subconsciously, he hit him on the chest with his elbow. He got up and made a fist with his right hand and hit him on his white right cheek. Yan Beiqing's white right cheek suddenly became red and swollen at the speed visible to the naked eye. He could not help howling in pain. Qin Lin, who is hiding outside the door and eavesdropping on it, describes it to Qinya. They are completely relieved, but they secretly sweat for Yan Beiqing. As for the other servants, the expression on their faces was very delicate. They were busy raising their ears and quietly paying attention to the movement outside. At this time, the situation inside has reversed. Yan Beiqing held miserably and faintly, and he didn't know what to do. For no reason, he pulled back the flower in the street and pressed her on him again. Mo Shanghua raised her eyes and looked at Yan Beiqing, who was pressed on her body. She felt a little impatient. This time, she shook him up with her palm force. Then she grabbed her collar and threw him out of bed. When Yan Beiqing fell to the ground, there was another burst of crying and howling, which made the servants outside the room laugh. Mo Shanghua has a clear ear and a clear eye. She listens to the outside smile. Her ears turn red for no reason. In her heart, she doesn't want to entangle with Yan Beiqing. She turns over from her bed and walks away. But the next moment, the tall figure and there is a rush. He pressed the flower's thin shoulder and forced it back. Emo Shanghua's face changed. Just now, she didn't feel his half-step, so she didn't have time to dodge. With such force, she could not help stepping back and faltering. However, with a faltering effort, Yan Beiqing somehow came to her side. He put his right foot behind her left foot. He took advantage of the skillful force to pick up the flowers on the street, and then he went back. There was a breeze in her ear. The flower on the street looked up. Where I could see was Yan Beiqing's ugly face. Her white fingers suddenly lifted up and held on to his collar. The next moment, they fell to the ground together. It's okay for Emo Shanghua to make this human flesh cushion, but Yan Beiqing, who had nothing to do with it, cried and howled again, and had no masculinity at all. Emo Shanghua is bored in his heart. He just kicks Yan Beiqing's jaw, which makes him cry more miserable. Yan North City called twice, then revenge-like climb over, again with the Emo Shanghua entangled together. His actions have no rules to speak of, but I don't know why, often can be inexplicably suppressed. For a time, the two were also entangled in the fight for a long time. Emo Shanghua can't keep up with his physical strength now. After a while, he feels a little exhausted. Fortunately, Yan Beiqing couldn't support himself anymore. He collapsed on the ground with a black and blue face, panting and shouting. No, I'm tired to death. Emo Shanghua see this, then also shunned steppin' down, in his side of the weak lie down, small mouth of breathing. After the rest, she could not help thinking in her heart. Her martial arts are not bad. How can Yan Beiqing, who has no martial arts and only relies on brute force, check and balance with her for so long? This alone was enough for her to confirm that he was not as simple as what she saw on the surface. Thinking, she can't help but turn her eyes to see the flowers on the street. In her eyes there is a light color. It suddenly occurred to her that she would rather cooperate with Yan Beiqing and borrow his name, as King Yu, to pave the way for herself, instead of taking advantage of him, and making fun of Yan Beiqing. Of course, she won't just make a big injustice in Yan Beiqing. She believes that this will be a mutually beneficial transaction. She is confident that Yan Beiqing will not refuse it. Although the heart has made a decision, but Emo Shanghua's heart is still a bit bottomless, can't help but turn his eyes to see Yan Beiqing lying on the side of the body, eyes light hidden with a bit complex. Yan Beiqing seemed to feel her sight and couldn't help turning his head. What do you do when you look at me like this? Is there any flower on my face? Flowers? The flowers on the street smell words. The Mao light can't help but sweep a circle on his cheek. Originally, there was a blood birthmark on his face, which was not very good looking. Now, because of her kicking, swelling, blue and purple, it's really like a 5-color palette. The flower on the street suddenly feels that it can't help laughing, and tears out a smile from the corner of the lip. Hearing the speech, Yan Beiqing quickly raised his hand and touched his cheek. As soon as his hand touched his jaw, he cried out in pain. The flower on the street saw this and laughed even more happily. Her eyebrows and eyes all bent up. Yan Beiqing's painful facial features were all tangled up, but he still reluctantly opened his eyes to see the flowers on the street. Seeing that she was so happy, he didn't know why and couldn't get half a breath. You ugly woman, it is rare to laugh like this. It's more beautiful than a wooden face. He sighed a little in his heart, but his face was filled with the opposite wonder. On the road, flower lips radiant shu of a meal, can't help but launch lung. In this case, she has not heard it for a long time. It turns out that she has not laughed so wantonly for a long time. Well, I'm praising you. What's your attitude? Yen North City 2 elbow half prop up a body. The full eye discontented color of looking at her. Emo Shanghua raised her eyes and looked at his bruised face. After a moment's silence, she turned her head and said, "Oh." Yan Beiqing was angry and looked at her for a while with gnashing teeth. Then he let out a breath and laid back lazily. It's really boring. Emo Shanghua really has no psychological meaning. After staring at the overhanging beam over his head for a long time, he suddenly sits up and looks at Yan Beiqing lying on the ground seriously. I have a business to talk with you. Yan Beiqing lazily raised his eyelids and glanced at the stranger. What business do you talk with me? I have nothing to give you. The clear-eye bottom is but faintly gush out of youth and interest. Mo Shanghua has long been used to her like this. She doesn't care at all. Her voice is indifferent and cold. It's very simple. You use your identity as King Yu to be my backer and my chips. After a pause, she reflected in her eyes. My chip is to eradicate all forces in your house. What do you think? Ben lay on the ground, a lazy Yan Beiqing. Thin lips suddenly raised a smile. The laughter was deep and pleasant. In fact, those forces are nothing in his eyes. If he wanted to eradicate them, he would have done it long ago. Now it's just not the time. This woman is really good at business. The flower eyebrow heart on the mo lightly cu rises. In the Mao pan rises the color of a fuf and don't understand. What do you smile? Nothing. Yan Beiqing answered casually, turned over and sat up from the ground. You are just a woman, how can you eradicate it? There is no difference between the tone and the words heard by ordinary men. The flowers on the street turn to open their eyes and sweep a basin of daisies not far away, gently sipping their lips, never opening their mouth. How to deal with it? She naturally has her way. You can't even talk about how to eradicate it. Don't you have this ability at all? You just want to cajole me to help you. Yen North City Mao bottom once crossed the color of a few minutes tease. Tone intentionally took a few minutes don't believe. I don't say anything I'm not sure about. The delicate jaw of the flower on the street is gently raised, and the eyes are full of confidence. Yen North City Mao bottom contains smile, but still don't believe on the face. This king don't believe, unless you prove to this king to see, or change a side of chip. Proof? What's next? The flower's eyes on the street were a little frozen, and his face was slightly cold. It's better to make it clear that the Lord wants me to prove or change chips, so that I don't think the Lord is too greedy and wants both. I didn't say that. Besides, those forces in the mansion, although they are not in my mansion, will never threaten my position. It's the same for me to eradicate them or not. Yan Beiqing turned his lips and opened his mouth with indifference. After a pause, his eyes were a little bright, and he looked for a circle on the flower face of the stranger. He said with a smile, "It's better for you to change chips. Look at you, although your face is not good, your posture." He did not continue to say the following words, but it was self-evident. The flower face on the road immediately caged a layer of annoyance, not polite direct to elbow for fist, toward him then hit in the past. Yan Beiqing screamed without accident and fell to the ground. The apprentice. Mo Shanghua looks at Yan Beiqing coldly, and then stands up, unwilling to talk nonsense with him. She really thinks too much. Yan Beiqing is a rogue. How can she expect to negotiate with such a rogue? Wait. Before he took 2 steps, Yan Beiqing got up behind him and unexpectedly said, "I promise you." The flower on the street steps slightly, turns around and looks at Yan Bei City behind him, with a look of surprise. Yan Beiqing didn't notice her look. He just rubbed his aching waist and abdomen and muttered in a low voice, "Ferocious, I've really had bad luck for 8 generations before I married you home." Mo Shanghua automatically ignored his words and walked to his side. "Say, what conditions do you want?" "Sit down and say with that." He sat back on the ground and patted himself by the way. The flower on the street nodded, and then sat in the past without embarrassment. Yan Beiqing didn't open his mouth. He just covered his waist and abdomen. He lingered until the eyebrows of the stranger frowned again. Then he could open his mouth. "What you said before is feasible, but I have an additional condition now. If you agree, our business will be finished. If you don't agree, it will be over. Tell me, what are the conditions?" Mo Shanghua pondered for a moment, slightly coagulated his eyes to see him. "I want you to help Wang save a man." Yan Beiqing's face was a little bit of a dandy, and his face was a little bit of a dandy. "Why should I help you?" Mo flower eyes across a few suspicions. The heart secretly sounded the alarm. Since she came to Yu's mansion, she only knew about Lu Zheng. Could it be spread so quickly? Or is there a connection between Yan Beiqing and the cloaker? "I met Lu Zheng a few days ago, and I asked you 2 questions about your illness, but he told me that you know the art of medicine. There was a dark color at the bottom of Yanbei City's eyes, but his face was as usual. The flower on the street gently pursed the scarlet lip petals, looked down and thought for a long time, then nodded under his gaze. I promise you. Yan Beicheng got the result he wanted, but he didn't plan to stay any longer. He left the room in a hurry and said, Come on, now let's ask Lu Zheng to wait for Ben Wang in his study. He was wearing a black and bruised pig's head and face. When the servants saw it, they knew what it was because of. They tried to suppress their smile and ran away. All the servants on duty outside the house looked up at Yan Beicheng's face. When they saw it clearly, they all lowered their heads and held back their smiles. It is clear that the prince pulled the princess in with an angry face, but now the prince came out with a black face. The princess really deserves to be a shrew. The next day, in the short time of one night, the reputation of the shrew rose to a higher level. According to the rumor, Princess Yu took dozens of people to Qinghuan Pavilion to kill 6 generals last night. She seized the King Yu who was having fun there, took him back to the palace and pulled him into her house. During this period, the screams in the house were incessant. When King Yu came out, he was black and blue. After hearing this, the people in Yuzhou City sympathized with Yan Beicheng, but they just laughed. At night, Yan Beicheng went to the sleeping hall of Mo Shanghua, holding back all the servants in her room. He didn't talk much. He took her to the bed and groped for a while in the position of her bed against the wall. Then I don't know where I pressed it, and there was a slight click on the wall. Then I slowly moved to both sides. After a while, a dark hole was exposed for one person to enter and leave. The strange color of flowers on the street said in a soft voice, How can there be a secret way in my room? Don't think about it. Keep up. Yan Beicheng turned around and gave her a mysterious smile. Then he bowed and entered the cave. Mo Shanghua see this, also not dawdle, busy with up. As soon as they got in, the entrance of the cave would click again and close again. The silence in the room was restored, and no one could see anything unusual. Although the entrance of the secret passage was small, there was something else in it. They walked side by side without crowding. Mo Shanghua walks in the body side of Yan Beicheng. Mao Guang involuntarily looks up in the cave. The walls of the secret passage are all paved with bluestones. For convenience, a hole will be made every other distance to place the wall lamp. The inside of the secret passage is also very clean, and there is not much dust. It can be seen that the secret passage has not been abandoned for long. Don't hurt to look at Yan Beicheng beside you. There's something calm in your eyes. Her previous conjecture was true. This person was not as simple as she had seen. Yan Beicheng, however, seemed to be unaware of it. He walked silently all the way. He only took a candlestick from the wall. After walking in the dark passage for a long time, they climbed out of a dry well. Mo Shanghua looked up and saw that the houses here were made of earth, and the roofs were covered with grass and mud. She knew that this place should be in the north of the city, the poorest part of the city, but it was almost half the distance from the palace in the city. Yan Beicheng, with such a noble personality, was tired and didn't shout. He took him to a mud hut beside the dry well, pushed the door open and went in. As soon as I entered the room, my nose was covered with a strong smell of medicine. After smelling it carefully, the flowers in the street smelled some rotten smell under the cover of medicine, and I felt a sense of uncertainty. Mao Guang looks along the bed and sees a middle-aged man lying on the earthen kong, closing his eyes and dying. The most terrible and disgusting thing is that the man is covered with chickenpox-like things, which almost envelopes the whole person. Some of the chickenpox have even been broken, and the wound shows light yellow and bloodshot liquid. Seems to feel someone coming. The man opened his eyes and sat up. It's you. After a pause, his eyes fell on the flower. Who is this? This is the doctor. Don't move. Let her have a good look at your illness. Yan Beicheng put the back of his hand behind him and said in a low voice. The man nodded, then leaned against the wall behind him, not moving. Mo Shanghua then walked to the earthen kong and gave the man a very serious look up and down, but the color behind suddenly changed and exited the house. Yan North City in the heart tiny sink, hurriedly pursued to go out. How? In the heart an answer already faintly emerged. Similar to the modern African Raman virus plague, Emo Shanghua held the wall with one hand and slowed down for a while. Then he turned to look at him. What this man got is not an ordinary disease, but an infectious disease named Raman, which is similar to the plague, but the disease is different. The color of the dandy on the surface of Yan Beiqing was clean, and the deep part of his eyes was slowly stained with a kind of unpredictable and treacherous color. Can it be cured? In addition, he is more suspicious of the identity of Emo Shanghua. He invited so many people, but he could not make a definite diagnosis. Now he just took a look at Emo Shanghua, and then he knew it. It can be seen that his medical skill is very good. How could a person with such high medical skills be the woman who was raised in the boudoir? Emo Shanghua pondered for a long time. Her ruddy lips moved and her voice was low. It's better to burn people as soon as possible. This disease is too infectious. Yen North City heart a shock. Into the temple sword eyebrow deep frown. Really no way? As a matter of fact, he had expected for a long time. After all, he had already invited most of those he could, and no one could be cured. But this person's identity is too special to die. Emo Shanghua looks up at Yan Beiqing. Seeing that he looks like this, he knows that he is afraid to be an important person. Silent for a long time, she was very serious, word by word of mouth. Yan Beiqing, I have to tell you, the infectious strength of this disease is you can't imagine big. Once infected, I'm afraid the whole Yuzhou city people will inevitably suffer. In larger, it can't be too much to say that it can endanger the whole kingdom of God. That's right. Burning is the best way. After a word, Yan Beiqing could not help being silent. People in this world have never been kind to him. What do these people have to do with him? It's just his identity. He was doomed not to die. After thinking for a long time, Yan Beiqing raised his head again, and his lips seemed to be smiling. I didn't expect that you ugly woman is really a kind-hearted doctor. Even the life and death of those unrelated people are always thinking about. Emo Shanghua stares at Yan Beiqing's lips, suddenly thinks that he has met the cloaker, and his eyes are slightly fixed. When he looks at him, he just turns his mouth, looking a little angry. Even so, she still had some doubts in her heart, but she didn't break them. Her face was frozen. You are the leader of Yuzhou. I'm just afraid that I'm worried about the life and death of your people. I'll remind you. Don't say it's useless. I just ask you whether you can cure it or not. Yen North City slightly droops ahead, particularly serious stare at him, mouth bottom faintly surging a few minutes dark color. The flowers and willow eyebrows on the street frown gently, and a touch of deep thinking color is dyed in the water eyes. Although she was a doctor of medicine in her previous life, this kind of case was only seen in the copy. She only had a certain understanding and had real contact with it. If she really wanted to be treated, she had no bottom in her heart. After all, Raman's infectivity is too strong, and the risk factor is great for everyone. She is not a virgin. There is no need to lose her life because of an unrelated person. But now she is to accept the words of Yan Beiqing. The trade between the two is still, those chips, is really attractive. The flower heart in the street is constantly calculating the value of this business, hesitating in the heart, struggling incomparably. Yan Beiqing collected all her looks into his eyes. He knew that he was waiting patiently for her to think for a while, but he didn't see the result, so he said, "If you can cure this person, I will give you $1,000, and the other conditions are still the same." 1,000 gold? This is not a small windfall. If she wants to do something in Yuzhou City, it will be convenient for her to have this money to pave the way for a long time. Emo Shanghua is fretting in her heart. Now she secretly thinks about what she can do after she has money. It has to be said that this gold examination is really tempting to her, which makes her feel moved and curious. What's the identity of that man? Is Yan Beiqing so willing? Emo Shanghua thought so, then naturally looked at Yan Beiqing and said, "Who is that person? You can even throw out the thousands of medical fees at will?" Yan Beiqing's sword eyebrows wrinkled slightly, which seemed to be deep in his eyes. Seeing that he didn't answer, he understood it. He didn't ask any more. He straightened his face. When did this person's pox and rash start? Do you have the symptoms of sore throat and headache? Every day, Yan Beiqing called people to see the patient. Of course, he was very clear. After a little thought, he said, I began to get sick 5 days ago. I have sore throat and headache. Mo Shanghua's delicate mandible was slightly touched. After thinking about it, he said, when did the pox rash begin to split and fester? All these things are related to the person's life. She needs to ask carefully. About 2 days ago. Mo Shanghua thought about it, then took out a brocade handkerchief from his sleeve, covered his nose and mouth, and entered the house again. At this time, the man had gone to sleep again. Seeing this, the flower on the street also looked at it carefully, and put a silk handkerchief on the man's wrist to isolate it. He diagnosed the pulse condition for the man. Only in his heart did he have a bit of bottom. Ramen disease has always been not just look at the appearance, performance and how serious. As long as the internal disease gas does not send, it is temporarily nothing. Thinking of this, Mo Shanghua went out again and looked at Yan Beiqing. This man's disease is still dormant, and he won't die in a short time. After a pause, she explained some herbs and utensils needed for medical treatment, and asked him to prepare them first. When the preparation was almost complete, he would be treated again. Although Yan Beiqing didn't understand, he still wrote down what she said and ordered people to guard here quietly. Then they went back to the palace quietly. After returning to the mansion, Mo Shanghua didn't rush to read the ancient books and seek treatment. Instead, he drove Yan Beiqing back to have a rest. It was not until the next morning that she went to Lu Zheng's medical room. At that time, Lu Zheng was sitting in front of the case, helping a boy feel his pulse. Mo Shanghua stands in front of the house and sees that he is actually helping the boy to feel his pulse. There is a bit of surprise in his eyes. Not to mention in King Yu's residence. Even in the ordinary rich family, there is no doctor willing to see the servant girl in the mansion. Lu Zheng is not shy at all, but he is really a real doctor. Thinking of this, she stopped the drug boy who wanted to report, and just stood at the door waiting. Lu Jingyu glanced at the flowers on the street, but he didn't move. He lowered his eyes and felt his pulse. When he was asked to take medicine for him, he stood up and bowed. I've been so impolite just now. I hope the princess will forgive me. People's lives are important. It's better to do something. The flowers on the street walk in, with a cool face and no sense of blame. Everything is done without going to the Temple of Three Treasures. Few flowers from the street will come here. This time, Lu Zheng's mind has already guessed, but he doesn't show anything. He just makes a gesture of inviting. Princess, please come inside. Mo Shanghua nodded her chin, helped her sleeve and sat down on the seat beside her. Tea for the princess. Lu Zheng politely smiles, takes the 2 teacups handed over by the medicine boy, and personally goes to the tea and pushes them to the flowers on the street. Mo Shanghua held the teacup in his hand, but he didn't drink it. He coughed twice and then said, to tell you the truth, I went out a few days ago, and I was cold again. Now I'm not very well. I always have a headache these days. After a pause, she thought a little at the bottom of her eyes. There's a servant girl in our hospital. Now she's suffering from dysentery. I've seen it, but it's not very serious. I just want to trouble you to make a prescription. This is my duty. Why bother to say that the princess is overpraised? Lu Zheng lowered his eyebrows and said with a respectful smile. While speaking, he waved to the drug boy behind him. The drug boy responded and went down in a hurry. After a while, he took up all the pens and papers. Lu Zheng raised her eyes and looked at the face of the flower on the street. She said that she was unwell, but her eyes were still clear. She knew it in her heart, but she didn't know it. She said, the princess should be suffering from the cold. I will prescribe medicine for you and the servant girl. Mo Shanghua's delicate mandible is slightly knotted, holding the teacup, drooping eyes and drinking shallowly. Lu Zheng is really a thorough person. If he knows he shouldn't ask, he will ask. It's said that he has been in the palace for several years. It's normal for him to be so smooth. It was during the deliberation that Lu Zheng skillfully wrote down the prescription and handed the 2 copies to her. The princess herself knows the art of medicine, and please have a look. There is something wrong with it. Good. The flower in the street whispered and took the 2 prescriptions. She first looked at the prescription for the treatment of wind cold. After reading it, she frowned and said, "Dr. Liu, I don't know. I've been weak since I was a child. This time I just recovered from a serious illness, and then I got sick again. I'm afraid that the efficacy is not enough. Don't add some snow ginseng, zhiyuan, qianbu. These are all nourishing things. Since then I think they can also be used." Although these things she said seem to be tonic, their efficacy is linked to the treatment of wind and cold. They are all complementary drugs, but their importance has nothing to do with dispelling cold. As soon as Lu Zhengfang heard it, he also heard the reason, but he just didn't know. He made a sudden look. What the princess said is reasonable. It's really Lu Zheng's negligence that he forgot that the princess had just recovered from a serious illness, so it's really time to fight. Such an obvious loophole, ordinary doctors may not see, but Lu Zheng's medical skills, how can not see? Mo Shanghua knows it in her heart, but she just smiles and hands the prescription to Lu Zheng again. Wuxia picks up another prescription and looks at it. After reading it, I found a way to add more herbs to it. Lu Zhengquan did not know, asked Mo Shanghua, determined that there was no problem with the prescription, then handed the prescription to Yao Tong, told him to go to the medicine. Wait a minute. Before Yao Tong went far away, he stopped himself and looked at Lu Zheng apologetically. I've been suffering from insomnia recently. I just looked at it for a moment. I used to use it in the past. I've also brought it. I'm sorry to trouble Lu Yui. Then he took out the prescription from his sleeve and handed it to Lu Zheng. This time, Lu Zheng just looked at it formally and handed it to Yao Tong. Let's do it together. Yes. The medicine boy answered and went down. The things that should be ordered have already been ordered. The flower in the street had little words, so it was silent again. The room was silent for a long time. Only the voice of the medicine boy opening the medicine cabinet was clear in his ears. Lu Zheng, who had been silent for a while, looked up and said, "Steward Zhang, since the last fake medicine incident, has not only taken care of the affairs in the mansion, but also the princess's body. Yesterday he came to ask the princess about your body. That you're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.